For many, there's going to be no fans. There's going to be no air conditioning. There's going to be limited, if any, water. There's no gas. So this is going to be difficult for days to come.
Days to come, in fact. But we've got community helping community. We've got, as you mentioned, businesses helping businesses with those networks of folks coming into the Miami Valley to help restore power. So we've got a lot going for us. And I think when in the worst of times, as I've said before, whether it's weather or otherwise, in the worst of times, our people really show their true spirit.
Yeah, we have Team 7 weather coverage here at News Center 7. I'm watching our feeds as they come in. I see Sean Cudahy right now. He's actually been in Mercer County, Salina for several hours now, where several people have been injured. The good news, it's minor injuries. Do we have Sean? Can we speak with Sean about the latest?
Well, we continue to be in this kind of a holding pattern out here as we wait to get a closer look at some of the damage as we go forward this morning. What we're dealing with right now is where police have actually shut down the road right here. They're not actually letting our Storm Tracker 7 vehicle, along with any other live trucks here, get back into this area because they're still concerned about our safety. I just a few minutes ago started to take, I will admit, a few steps towards this road closed sign over there, and the officer reminded me I needed to get back because they're still not sure that it's safe, and that's one of the problems with it being dark out here. Now, do we have some video that we can show you from, we were able to get our cameras back into another street a little earlier this morning in the overnight hours. Again, not able to get Storm Tracker 7 back there, but we were able to get our cameras back there, and just unbelievable destruction in this neighborhood right here. I spoke with the mayor a little earlier this morning, a few hours ago, and he reiterated 7 people that were injured in the midst of this storm. He also said that power was knocked out to the entire city. We have started to see a few lights in this area come back on, so I just sent the mayor a text message a few minutes ago to ask him what the situation is as far as power outages are here in the city of Salina, because he told me that previously that power is out to the entire city, and we're going to continue to monitor that situation throughout the morning, as well as getting a closer look at that damage as we go forward over the next few hours. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Sean, thank you. Again, there in Salina, you see first responders there on scene. You see road closed signs, lots of cones. Sean has been showing us damage throughout the morning. The mayor has basically shut down the city and saying everyone had lost power. We did see some glimpses of power throughout the morning coming back on there in the Salina area. We do know that at least 7 injuries there in Salina as well have been reported, and those are the ones that we know about. There are others that we're sure as daylight approaches, we're going to see more debris. We're going to hear of probably more injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we do want to get to video of Dayton Sports Complex, the Action Sports Complex, rather, in Dayton. You know, we've been talking about businesses throughout the morning. We've seen a destroyed Marathon gas station, Wing Sports Bar in Vandalia. Very heavy damage, but take a look at this. This is near Dayton Children's Medical Center. This is a 30,000 square foot facility that houses 2 indoor soccer fields as well as a concession stand. And you know, Dante and I are looking at this and thinking, my goodness, how many children are now going to have to find somewhere else to play their favorite sport? It is sad to see. I will say I had a moment of hope a couple of hours ago when we spoke with the business owners there, and they are honestly taking a glass half full approach. They said, while obviously this is devastating to see, they said they're going to come back bigger and stronger and better, and they said that really all they care about is no children were there at the time.
The loss is devastating. I mean, I didn't know what to think when I pulled up. As we kind of walked around and assessed the damage, it's a complete loss. No way around it. The building is completely destructed. We've got steel construction baseball field lights completely snapped in half. All of our fencing's down, dugouts are blown over. That the place it's unsalvageable at this point.
We're just fortunate that there were no fatalities in this situation. You know, it is a devastating loss, but it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we can impact the youth of the Dayton area and the Miami Valley. We will rebuild, we'll get better, and we're just looking to be rebounding here and making this a premier complex.
Well, there you have it. That's what I was referring to. Again, that complex holds 2 indoor soccer fields and a concession stand, all destroyed. Also, outdoor soccer fields and baseball fields are there as well. We're told they too are damaged.
And we are hearing as well from many people around the Miami Valley that they heard tornado sirens. Residents across the Miami Valley heard as several counties were under tornado warnings last night. This is video of the storm taken in the Vandalia area. You can see that lightning was just lighting up the sky, and look at the damage here in the Vandalia area.
Okay, we do, I believe, now have Brianna Wooten on the phone, a spokesperson out of Montgomery County. Brianna, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, Brianna, well, first of all, thank you for joining us. We are very well aware that it is 4:35 in the morning. This has been a very long night for everyone in the Miami Valley and a very long morning. Obviously, a lot happening throughout all of the counties in Miami Valley, but I know especially here in Montgomery County, we have tens of thousands without power. We've been reporting on customers needing to conserve water. We have extremely damaged businesses. From a county standpoint, at 4:35 on a Tuesday morning, what phone calls are being made? What are you doing from the county side to coordinate and try to wrap your arms around what we're dealing with?
Of course. So we have opened our Emergency Operations Center, and we are coordinating with local fire, police, and emergency management professionals to get resources where they are needed. We are also coordinating with the Red Cross and the food bank to ensure that people will have food, shelter, and water tomorrow. And we are also working with our state emergency management professionals and our veteran utility company to help shut down gas lines in areas where they have large damage and damaged buildings that could be exposing gas lines, to ensure that we keep people safe.
Brianna, when was the last time Montgomery County had a situation this large, this widespread, with this much damage?
Well, we did have a pretty significant wind and ice storm about a decade ago. Yeah. However, we did, of course, have our water outage recently. We had to activate our Emergency Operations Center for that a few months ago. But it has been a long time since we've had to activate for a natural disaster of this size.
I understand Montgomery County is a large county with a large population and many resources. In a situation like this, do you reach to nearby counties? Do you pull in their resources as well? Do you reach out of state?
Well, at times, yes, we do. We have cooperative agreements and mutual assistance and aid agreements with many organizations. At this time right now, we're functioning as a coordinating agency to help our local jurisdictions, our local fire, police, and EMA and the utility companies coordinate, talk to each other, and get resources where they're needed. That's our primary focus right now.
All right. Well, the good news is, I think, Brianna, is that there is a plan in place. And so what are you asking of residents at this point?
Our primary concern is that people who are need help or emergency assistance know to call 911 or their local fire or police for assistance. In addition, we have received notice from the city of Dayton that their water plants and pumps have lost power. And at this time, they are advising all Montgomery County and Dayton water customers to conserve water. That is very important. The longer that we can keep the water in the system, the better. Hopefully so that we can get the power back up and running before we reach the point where we run out of water. So we're asking all customers to conserve water who are Montgomery County and Dayton water customers.
All right. And we thank you for talking with us this morning. We know you are very busy as well. Brianna Wooten of Montgomery County, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Brianna, thank you. Well, from one expert to another, I believe we're being joined on the phone by Phil Sanu. He's a spokesman for Ohio Task Force 1. We heard moments ago Gabrielle Enright talking about Ohio Task Force 1 being deployed. Phil, are you there? Okay, I'm told we're going to get Phil here in a moment. This is an important time to remind our viewers all of this is coming in, breaking as we speak. The numbers continue to change. The damage that we're seeing will continue to change over the next several hours, as Kirsty and Dante have both mentioned, as the sun comes up and we can actually assess what we're dealing with. This entire line of storms, several rotations, as you both have been speaking about for several hours now, came at night, making it that much more dangerous.
Yeah, definitely was what makes it scarier to deal with. It's also makes it a little bit more unexpected. Now, thankfully, we were under a tornado watch, which is very helpful. Hopefully, people took that seriously. So they were ready knowing after sunset that risk was going to climb. And of course, meteorologist McCall Reidigs had been talking about how that threat had evolved. And I mean, she tracked those storms since they began to enter the Ohio-Indiana border. I think we had our first warning in Wayne County, and then Salina dealt with rotation and likely tornado damage up there. Montgomery and Greene, I think, are really where the National Weather Service is going to be spending a lot of time today. But they will be very busy because there was multiple areas of rotation indicated on radar. And that could either indicate, that could indicate several tornadoes.
Yeah, and they have to really differentiate between the tornadic damage and straight line wind damage.
Because that was also a huge thing.
And they will be going out to several places because there will be reports of, hey, I think this might have been a tornado, I think that might have been a tornado. And in reality, it may not have been, but they have to go out and assess that situation and see. So, matter of fact, the National Weather Service just saying earlier that bear with them. It's going to take them several days to get through all these areas and to find out what's going on and to decipher whether that was a straight line wind or whether it was tornado. So, but the threat, it looks like it's waned for now. But
at least
it's
going
to ramp back up by the time we head towards the afternoon. Even tomorrow as well.
Exactly. So, in terms of where those reports were, again, you can see the high concentration really stretching from Miami County through Montgomery into Greene. Several reports of tornado or funnel clouds. Also a lot of hail, and not small-sized hail, Dante.
Golf ball size.
Golf ball-sized hail. So, unfortunately, people, I think, are going to be waking up to hail damage on their roofs, hail damage on their cars. That's also another thing that I don't want to downplay, because that, too, large-sized hail like that can really pack a punch.
Right. Yeah, this is going to certainly be an insurance situation as well. I mean, there are tons of insurance claims for damage, not because of wind, but because of the hail, as well as the flood threat, too, that we have to deal with.
And speaking of, we're still under a flash flood warning. That goes until 5:45. So we talked a little bit about flash flooding, Dante, that it's very fast rain that falls quickly. It can recede. So I know a lot of the actual flash flood reports were coming in around 12:45-ish, realistically. Now that we're getting closer to the 5 o'clock hour, hopefully more of that water has been able to recede. But it's going to be a lot of the creeks and streams and even the Great Miami River. Getting that rain up north, it all flows down.
It's those aerial flood warnings now, those river floods that we do have to keep an eye on, because like you mentioned, it flows down, and then on top of that, the over inundation of water that we received in a short amount of time, and the already saturated grounds that we've been really hammering and really telling you about over the course of the past few months, but it's just rightfully so, because we've been so wet. It's been a wet planting season. I know you've kept track of that. So the water has really done a number on our soil, and so this is the result at times when you get thunderstorms that move very slowly and dump copious amounts of water. You get problems such as the flooding.
So a little bit about later today. We will have the chance for storms, especially as we go into the afternoon. So I think we're all going to be quiet and dry for several hours this morning, through lunchtime at least. But again, northern Miami Valley, especially Mercer, Auglaize, Logan counties, you are under a slight risk for severe weather again today. So, really making sure as we heat up this afternoon that you don't completely let your guard down. I don't expect the activity later to be as powerful or as widespread as it was this last night into early this morning, but it's not completely dry forecast for Tuesday. And to be honest, Wednesday has another threat for severe weather. That will be even more widespread. So we're going to, I think, take a photo here for you, and then we're going to look a little bit further ahead. Dante and I have been kind of looking at the forecast, so I'm going to have some actual forecasts for you. We'll look at future cast for the day, future cast for tomorrow, and temperatures, because Adam, as I had mentioned to you before, we're talking about high heat and humidity, and these are people that don't have water, don't have power, and we're going into an afternoon in the mid to upper 80s. With the heat index, that'll feel more like 90. So I'll kind of break down that temperature profile for everyone here, what you're going to deal with in the afternoons the next couple of days as well.
All right, we'll check back in with you in just a few moments.
And as I mentioned moments ago, Ohio Task Force 1, I believe, Phil Sinoway. I believe I'm saying that right. Phil, are you there?
Yeah.
Finoway, I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay.
So let me just start by thanking you for being here. I know it's 4:45 in the morning. I know you're very busy, so we will not take much of your time and let you get back to your real job. However, I do want to just for a moment, if you could explain to our viewers what Ohio Task Force 1 is and what the services you provide in a situation like we're seeing this morning.
Okay, so real quickly, because I know you got a lot going on too. This is slightly different than how you would normally see us because we are we're now a state asset, not a federal asset at this point, and things are developing, much sooner than if we were going to Mississippi. So I can't really give you a lot of details at all on what all's going on in the county. As you guys have already reported, things have gone through Trotwood, Dayton, Beaver Creek as a general path that I've been told. What Ohio Task Force 1 really does in a situation like this is we just provide additional resources and manpower. We do have some specialized equipment. We have search dogs, items like that. So what I think is happening at this point is the county is trying to get a grip on exactly what has happened. We know there's a lot of damage, and they want to be prepared for daybreak as to what's exactly needed. So we are really just an additional. I heard you talking a little earlier about mutual aid agreements, etc. You can think of us as just an additional fire department that's been called, because now we're getting some guys from Cincinnati and Columbus who otherwise are not involved in this at all. If a team member is on, example, Trotwood's fire department, that team member isn't available for Ohio Task Force 1. He's already committed. So we're just bringing in some additional resources to help with search and rescue.
And I know this is a highly skilled group. I know you train often. We've been there. I know New Center 7 has been with you during many of your missions out of state to some of the hardest hit areas. Do you take a different approach mentally when this is your hometown? I mean, I know you guys are used to getting together and you hit the highway in a convoy and you show up and you help people in other communities. It's got to be devastating to see it right here in your own community.
Well, sure, of course it is. But on the other side of the coin, these guys are all professional guys. They're used to going to emergencies in their own communities all the time, so they'll function just the same. The only difference will be is we'll get out the door much, much quicker because we don't have to do a bunch of federal required paperwork, etc. And they know that potentially we're getting in a truck and we're driving 15 minutes, in this case, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They're driving and jumping right into whatever is needed. But other than that, no. I mean, like the team won't just come in and say, hey, we're here to take over. The team will basically do what Montgomery County's EMA, which trickles down to the local fire departments, what can we help you with and how can we help you? And they'll kind of move into that mode and help where they can.
What does that look like? Does that look like going through these buildings that have been devastated? Does that look, what specifically do you have the ability to do?
Well, yeah, it's not any different than if you can remember pictures we see from hurricanes and stuff like that. What needs to be done this morning, and again, this is just my assumption. I have not had any contact with Montgomery County EMA, but what needs to be done this morning is, first and foremost, they have to figure out where's the damage. Then second of importance is how much damage is and what do we need to be done. And that's one of the things that the task force is potentially very helpful in, because we can be very mobile and drive through a community and say, yeah, these, and these streets need searched. And then past that, we do have search dogs. We have guys that are dressed properly. They have the proper tools. Somebody has to go search all these homes and make sure that they're safe.
And Phil, I do want to mention that, and if you can answer this, great. If you can't, I understand. But it was about 10 minutes ago. We had News Center 7's Kayla Cravell. She's live, very close to Brookville High School. You saw that house?
The Orange X is what you're asking
absolutely.
about. Yeah. I'm not going to go into a lot of details of the Orange X because it's used a lot of different ways. The most important thing for everyone to understand is the Orange X means that somebody searched it.
Got it.
I will tell you that the bottom number is typically used for how many people are found alive, dead, or there, period. So that's what that number is usually used for. So a zero on that building was a good sign.
Absolutely.
The rest of them the other three boxes aren't really that important to anybody. Except to us. But the biggest thing is it tells us that the building's been searched by somebody who knows the X system and understands it. And don't let me, before we leave, I got a couple real quick tips to give you, so make sure we talk about that before we go. Well, the only three things that come to me from my experience being in the fire service and from search and rescue teams, just to remind everybody, because I'm sure you've been saying it this morning already, is number one, 911 is an emergency resource. Don't call 911 to find out if, hey, has anybody found my mother at such and such an address? They just simply can't funnel and handle that information. If you have an emergency, obviously that's a totally different thing, and that's how you use that. The other two things which are important, and we see this all the time in these kind of emergencies, is you need to stay out of damaged areas. And what we call freelancing, volunteering on your own and self-deploying yourself to the scene, is no help at all, and in most cases it's illegal. So as much as everybody wants to help, and we all get that, you're really not any help at this point. So you just have to kind of sit back and maybe see where you can volunteer in the next few days. But right now, the local fire departments, and in conjunction with many, many teams, other than just us, they have everything pretty well under control and can handle that themselves.
Okay. Well, Phil, thank you so much again. Phil Finoway from Ohio Task Force 1. I know you're very busy. We appreciate your service. We appreciate what you and your team are doing. So we'll let you get back to the work. Phil, thank you.
All right. Thanks.
We are looking at video right now out of Salina, and you can see people with whatever they can carry, whatever they could pack there in their luggage. They are taking to the streets, walking, looking for shelter. You also see in the distance a Dayton Power and Light truck there in the distance.
And this actually a tree on a car just into our News Center 7 newsroom. We've been talking about damage. This is on Airway Road in Riverside. Listen, this is widespread.
Yes.
Right? We are seeing significant damage around the Miami Valley. We've gone from Brookville to Salina to Riverside to Trotwood, as Letitia mentioned, to all of Montgomery County. I mean, it really doesn't matter where in the Miami Valley you are. You probably either see damage, will see damage, or have family or friends that have experienced damage last night and into this morning.
And I know a lot of people probably heard the crashing and the slapping against their houses, but not knowing the extent of the damage around them right now. But when day breaks, it's going to be even more extensive, I suspect.
We saw it there in Trotwood with 2 apartment buildings where it wasn't the siding ripped off, it was the brick facade on the side of that building that are now just in rubble. We saw it at Brookville High School with Kayla Cravell, where at one point she said, I don't know where the roof is, until she walked around the back of the school and then realized it was crumbled up in the field. Not just the metal roof, but the plywood under the roof, and you could see the lights coming out from a classroom into the sky. We are still dealing with this right now. Obviously, county, local, state officials all trying to work together, whether it's through gas and Vectren, whether it's DP&L with power, whether it's Montgomery County now asking people to conserve water. Red Cross is in the Miami Valley and working their way toward the Miami Valley. Crews from out of state are through the Miami Valley. This a live look here. If someone could tell me what shopping center this is. Okay, there you go. It's North Dixie Drive. And again, you can see just business after business that will not be able to open today.
I think that's right there at Siebenthaler and North Dixie Drive. Right around from where we showed you that marathon station there on Wagner Ford Road. I think this is in the same area, but take a look at this. None of those businesses will be able to open. Fortunately, though, as we've been saying, when the storms hit, most likely most businesses were closed and there were few to no people inside those businesses. But thank goodness when you take a look at this damage here at this entire shopping center, not a store, but several stores here on North Dixie Drive.
While we have reported several injuries, right? The good news is, as of this point, that's a Family Dollar, by the way, that you're looking at. Completely, I would describe that as completely destroyed. Yeah. We also saw the inside of apartments that had furniture scattered. The ceilings were caved in, and that's a great reason to check on your neighbor if you can.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's right up there by.
Is the UDF right across the street there at Siebenthaler?
Right down the street there.
Yeah.
Yep. And then up the street is Shoot Mill or Turner, at Needmore, and then there's a Dollar Tree there on the corner of that, and there's a Kroger around there, and then you keep going up the street there. There's a Walmart. So yeah, that's right in the area where I'm accustomed to. see every day, visit every day. So to see that much damage in that shopping center is just astounding.
We were discussing earlier, as you guys know, we're so used to tornadic activity maybe quickly hitting a rural area and then quickly being gone, and we report on maybe some boards of a barn, right? Maybe a shed blew into the side of one home. These are densely populated areas. There's several of them, and this cleanup, you know, who knows how long this is going to take.
And when many people were sleeping.
You
know, that's the scary part as well. We do have our crews dispatched all over the Miami Valley. Let's get to News Center 7's Gabrielle Enright. Gabrielle.
Letitia, we're in Beaver Creek, and I'm about a block and a half from where I was before, and I ran into James and Tracy, and they let me come into their house, which really doesn't look like it. Come inside with me. I want to show you. This used to be an office, and really, after the damage, I want to show you that it has a new surprise addition. There's no roof here anymore. You can see a tree where their office roof used to be, and if you look at the debris down on the ground, everything is just an absolute shambles. I also am going to take you, as he moves over very slowly, into their kitchen. There's some things that are still fine. There are other things that are not fine. And again, if you look, there is absolutely no roof here. Now, I asked James and Tracy where they were. They were in the basement, thankfully. Look at that brick. I mean, the fireplace just blown apart. And then you look on the counter, and there's a mug with pencils that wasn't even touched. It's unbelievable, the damage here in this house. And I've been told that the bedrooms are even worse. So we're going to take a look back there in just a little bit. But just imagine, we talk about this all the time. Go to the basement. Anything that fell could have landed right on anyone that was here. We talk about getting under mattresses. We talk about getting under something sturdy. I mean, just look at what could have fallen on them if they had been on this level. They were in the basement with two 13-year-old girls. They are safe. They didn't want to leave. We talked with Beaver Creek Police. They would prefer that they left, but this is not exactly the danger zone that they were concerned about, but they still would prefer that people would leave. But you just look. It's unbelievable, the damage. That is their dining room. That is a place where obviously you go to gather for dinner, and look, the roof is gone. So just the images that we're seeing from a different perspective. Often I'm not in these situations right after they happen. I see it maybe a few minutes later, or a few hours later. But just looking at what the family now has to deal with, it's just unbelievable to me. And so these are the images. This is why we show you to go into the basement. We're going to show you, coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to take you in the backyard where I'm told the roof landed. And I'm also going to be talking with James and Tracy about how they survived this. Reporting live, Gabrielle Enright, News Center 7.
Incredibly sad to see their home there and where obviously they gather and their family gathers. Gabrielle, thank you so much. Be safe. We'll check back in with Gabrielle in a moment. You know, from homes to businesses, we keep talking about businesses destroyed. We just saw that Family Dollar store destroyed. Well, take a look at this. If you're just joining us here just a few minutes shy of 5 o'clock, this is Action Sports in Dayton. This is near Dayton Children's Medical Center. This is where many families gather on a nightly basis to play some of their favorite sports. Outside, there are soccer fields and baseball fields. We're told they experienced damage as well, sustained damage, I should say. But this building is 30,000 square feet and houses 2 indoor large soccer fields. And it is absolutely destroyed. We spoke with the owners earlier this morning right here on News Center 7.
The loss is devastating. I mean, I didn't know what to think when I pulled up. As we kind of walked around and assessed the damage, it's a complete loss. No way around it. The building is completely destructed. We've got steel construction baseball field lights completely snapped in half. All of our fencing's down, dugouts are blown over. That the place it's unsalvageable at this time.
We're just fortunate that there were no fatalities in this situation. You know, it is a devastating loss, but it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we can impact the youth of the Dayton area and the Miami Valley. We will rebuild, we'll get better, and we're just looking to be rebounding here and making this a premier complex.
And I would just described those young men as glass half full. That is really how they're looking at this. Amazing that that they're standing there and essentially saying we're going to rebuild, and they're just thankful no one was hurt. Major work to be done there. Major work to be done in many places. If you're just joining us, we're just shy of 5 o'clock. This storm put us on air with Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydaghs. Cheryl was here. Dante was here. They were tracking this a few minutes after 9 is when we went on air, and News Center 7 has been on air since, along with our partners, our WHIO weather app, our WHIO Facebook page, our news app, our radio partners, AM 1290 and News 95.7 WHIO. I listened to our coverage the entire way in.
Coming in. You know, our goal is always to keep you safe, to prepare you for what's coming, and to show you the aftermath. And that's what we have been doing since 9 o'clock last night, and we will continue to do throughout the day today. As we've mentioned, we have our teams of reporters dispatched all over the Miami Valley, showing you damage all over the Miami Valley from those severe storms. Let's get to News Center 7's Sean Cudahy, who is in the Salina area and has been in contact with the mayor overnight and into the morning.
Letitia and Adam, good morning. If you're just waking up this morning, this is one of the areas that's got a long road ahead when it comes to cleaning up. I'm in an area just down the street from the worst of the destruction, and that's because police are saying it's still too dangerous for us to actually get our Storm Tracker 7 down the street. But if we want to show you some video here, we were able to get our cameras there overnight, and you can take a look. Just unbelievable damage in this neighborhood. There's another neighborhood, we're told, that's just like this that we have not been able to get our cameras into yet. But you see some of these houses just leveled. I spoke with a man who described it, his house as just shot. Debris all over the place. Neighbors said they heard a deafening sound as this storm moved through, and really I had never seen anything like this. I was taken aback walking through this neighborhood early this morning. Now, a little while ago, I spoke with the mayor. He said 7 people were injured, and he said, like the city has seen with tornadoes in the past, there's going to be a long road ahead. And back out here live, the mayor told me that those 7 people were taken to the hospital. Their injuries believed to be non-life-threatening. They also expect as the day goes on, they may hear of some other injuries, but none at this point that they believe to be particularly severe. And what they've been doing overnight is doing search and rescue efforts, going door to door to different houses to make sure there's not anybody that's unaccounted for at this point. We're going to keep checking in with the mayor and with city leaders and police as this operation moves forward over the coming hours, with daylight being something they're really looking to this morning. And we'll keep that for you here live in Salina. Sean Cudahy, News Center 7.
Sean, thank you for staying on top of that and keeping in touch with the mayor. Thank you for that report.
We now want to get straight to Kayla Cravell. She continues our Team 7 weather coverage from Brookville. We saw Kayla out earlier at Brookville High School, where the roof had been ripped off. The front doors were literally pushed in about 4 feet. There's debris everywhere, metal wrapped around poles. She then moved to a nearby home that we referenced as a dollhouse. It looked like a dollhouse because the entire front of that home had been ripped off. And if we could get to, I believe we have Kayla, do we? Okay, Kayla. And again, every time I see you, you're at a new scene with extreme damage. Can you tell us what's behind you now?
Yes, I really thought this was a house whenever we first came up on it, but as we got closer, it looks like it was some sort of auto shop. This looks like a Camaro that's sitting here, and you can see all the cinder blocks. I mean, look at this. The cinder blocks were just kind of torn off. This looks like a door frame, maybe from the garage where it was, that's still standing, but I'm thinking this was a garage where the cinder blocks came down, and you can see the garage frame there still standing. And I know you were talking about those, we were talking about those orange X's earlier. I heard I was listening to you all on the radio, and I was able to hear that means that they have checked this area. The orange X means they have checked the area, and then the 0, the O, means that no one was found there. We found this also here on this building, and you can see there's an old Volkswagen Beetle. Let me move this light here so I can show you this a little bit better. You can see this yellow Volkswagen Beetle that's here. You can see it looks like just a lot of the building just thrown on top of this. This is a parking lot too, so that's where all of this kind of fed into. And then you can see just across the way there's a white truck. Now this white truck is sitting on top of power lines. So what we think happened is that truck went up in the air, was taken up into the air during that storm, and then landed on those power lines. And you can see again the orange X is there. That means emergency crews have been out here. They've been checking this, and did not find anyone there. There's a 0 there as well. But I mean, I just can't even believe the amount of damage that we're seeing out here. It's really widespread, and this is right next to that home you were talking about, the dollhouse home. That's right next to where this is. So this really area of road, this Johnsonville-Brookville Road, is very badly damaged, and then right across the way there you can see Brookville High School. So this area here, it's an absolute mess from that storm. It's going to take a while to clean up, and as we've been on the air, DP&L has been out here. I'm pretty sure they've been turning off those live power lines. They're all over the road. Gas lines are exposed out here. Brookville High School, obviously, no school today. They're just finishing up this week. So we're heading now to another area where we have reports of a lot of damage, and so we'll check back in as soon as we get to that area. Reporting live, Kayla Corval, News Center 7.
Kayla, thank you. I do want to mention, if you look there behind Kayla, there was that Camaro, and then there was that black structure. What that was, it was an automotive lift. Wow. Right? So essentially, when you pull your car into an automotive shop, that's the legs they kick under your vehicle and lift the whole thing in the air. If you want to know why it's standing, there's a good chance because they actually bolt these deep into the concrete foundation. Obviously, because when you have an SUV or a large vehicle getting lifted into the air, the last thing you want is for that lift to fall over. So it makes absolute perfect sense to me that that was the last thing left standing. You saw, obviously, the center block walls completely destroyed and cars destroyed, and the automotive lift still in the air because it is literally bolted into the foundation.
Let's get the very latest on this weather situation from our Storm Center 7 team. They've been very busy overnight and into the morning, continue to be so. What's the very latest?
All right, so we've been pulling in photos from all of our Eyewitness 7 reporters, and we want to kind of talk a little bit about that first, and then we'll get into a forecast for you. So in terms of the pictures,
wow.
Not only have we seen a lot of damage, we've also seen photos of large-sized hail, and this is a photo sent in to us showing pretty significant tree damage. That tree is completely uprooted, Dante. This is sent in to us from Michelle. Zoom in, you could see completely lifted. Now, granted, we do have very saturated soil, so it's not as hard to lift and destroy a larger sized tree. This photo is a picture, they're not wrong there, from Dustin, downtown Dayton, and yes, that is clearly looks like a large tornado.
This is a picture that I have no doubt that you're going to see across social media today. You're going to see this probably on some of the national outlets today of the monster storm that ravaged portions of Dayton, Ohio, and to look at that at night, Kirsty.
Right. That was lit up by lightning there.
Wow.
That's the only reason why he was likely able to capture that photo.
And other folks, too, have done the same thing. A bolt of lightning lightened up the sky enough to where they could capture this barreling down on neighborhoods and doing quite a bit of destruction. And we've got some pictures of the destruction video as well. And then, as you mentioned, some hail, too.
Yeah. So that was about 30 minutes. So assuming it's pretty warm, that hail probably melted just a bit. But we had golf ball-sized hail earlier. So the National Weather Service, Dante, we've mentioned, they've already confirmed they'll be in Salina and the Dayton area, and a couple more cities in the Miami Valley. But here's what they're going to be looking at. So, of course, they're going to make the determination between straight line winds or tornadic wind debris. And if they're looking at tornado damage, it's going to be shot up into the air. It's going to be damage in all different directions. Straight line wind will be more unified. Which will probably have a mix of both, to be honest.
Exactly. And you know what? And They are going to look at that tomorrow, and we have been looking at the pictures and the videos that have been sent to us and kind of assessing this ourselves and looking at some of the damage. And EF0, you know, that's the lowest on the scale, 65 to about 85 miles an hour, and you get blown off shingles and shallow trees uprooted. But then when you start to go up in the scale, you start to see some of the damage that we've seen. For example, cars possibly, if Kayla's right, you know, cars lofted in, that's more indicative of EF2. We're talking 111, 135 miles an hour.
Yeah, and
so that's very strong.
And especially because they will look at the types of buildings. So when you're starting to get well-constructed homes and buildings that are either seeing significant damage, the foundation may have shifted, or old trees, which I think it was Gabrielle had done the interview, where a woman had said she's got beautiful historic trees in her neighborhood and they were just uprooted. That's when you start getting into the higher end EF2s, EF3s.
Like your Family Dollars.
Exactly. Some of the well-constructed areas, well-constructed buildings. So that's what they're going to be looking at too. It's not just that it hurt a building, it's how well was that building constructed, and then that tornado still did the damage. So that's what they're going to be looking at today. A little bit forward now for you here. We're still seeing just almost a completely dark downtown Dayton. We've got a ton of power outages, which we're going to check in with Adam and Letitia, and they'll give us an update on the power outages. 72 degrees right now. Looking at those storm reports, you can see where that swath of reports are in terms of hail and tornado damage. That goes here from portions of Miami, maybe even northern Preble, but really through Montgomery and northern Greene County, with Jamestown probably being one of the last cities that had a report of a funnel or tornado. In terms of rain, we are still under a flash flood warning until 5:45 for Clark, Greene, Montgomery, as well as Miami County, and that is from that very heavy rainfall that came with those thunderstorms. They were picking up so much moisture, dumping it so fast on the already saturated ground. So that's where we're dealing with that flash flood warning. The good news is Mercer County is out of it. This is the current look at live Doppler 7 radar. We are quiet. Everyone can take a deep breath. We can continue cleanup. We can continue to help our neighbors out and watch as the sun comes up here this morning and kind of get a better assessment of what happened throughout the night. The big picture shows as well, there's a little bit of activity still to the north, but that is north of the Miami Valley. So once again, a couple of hours throughout the morning, midday or so. I don't expect there to be much more redevelopment. We do still have the chance, though, for redevelopment later this afternoon, and that is especially going to favor the northern half of the Miami Valley. We're not talking about the strength and the widespread intensity that we just had with this round for Monday night into early Tuesday, but again, a strong storm or two can't be ruled out. The atmosphere is still very much dealing with warmth, moisture, and lift here, so we'll be keeping an eye as well as shear. 71 degrees right now in Springfield, 70 in Greenville. As you're getting ready today, we've got a lot of people that don't have water, that don't have power. Well, we're going to have an afternoon where temperatures are well in the mid to upper 80s, and this is not dry heat. If you noticed when you were outside yesterday during the afternoon, extremely muggy conditions. Well, when we factor in how hot it is and how humid it is, it gives us heat index. And unfortunately today, it will be around 90. So again, making sure if you can go to one of the Red Cross shelters, get the water, keep yourself hydrated and safe, because it is going to be a really hot afternoon, and that's going to be hard for first responders and for the DP&L crews as well. Futurecast keeps us dry through the day. Once we head into this late afternoon, though, 5:30, really from 4 o'clock on, be ready, because I do expect there to be a few more thunderstorms that start to pop again, especially north of I-70, lasting into the evening, but kind of fizzling out into the overnight hours. In terms of the severe threat, again, hail, wind, keeping an eye on that. Northern Miami Valley from about 4 o'clock through about 9 or 10. And this is early evening, the chance for storms before we dry back out. I don't really like Wednesday's situation. We've got a slightly higher threat across the entire Miami Valley for some severe storms yet again. And looking at Wednesday, it also will be very warm, very muggy. We're kind of locked into a summer pattern here. Futurecast keeps those storms, starting to fire them off as we head into the afternoon on Wednesday, keeping an eye on things Wednesday night. And again, we may be seeing some strong storms that develop overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. So that means, again, to be alert here throughout that forecast. 5-day forecast for you. It is a lot of storms to deal with. I think we're going to be starting to see a little bit of a break as we head towards Friday. Humidity will drop off as well. But again, this weekend, we're just kind of seeing the chance for more storms to develop. Letitia, Adam?
And you guys are talking about not only forecasting, but the fact that the National Weather Service will be out busy today as well. Take a look at this video.
Yeah, we just want to take a moment for you to watch and listen. This is out of Xenia.
It's going right straight to Jamestown. Whew. Oh my goodness. You can see it right there. See the funnel?
Yeah, but it's going that way.
Right, it's going towards Jamestown. Trying to videotape it.
And again, the lightning, the only reason we could see anything. Now take a look at this. A live look here. Again, another business badly damaged, if not completely destroyed. We've seen bricks ripped off the side of apartment buildings. We've seen front of businesses damaged, and we've seen entire businesses damaged.
This is actually on North Dixie Drive, and we've seen quite a bit of damage to businesses along the North Dixie Drive strip this morning. A lot of damage happening. We're getting more videos and more pictures from our Eyewitness 7 reporters. We, too, have crews all around the Miami Valley, and they are moving so that we can better assess. But as Adam says, you see, those are bricks that are caved in. That's not just siding peeled off. That's not just shingles peeled off of a roof. These are bricks that have literally crumbled because of the severity of that storm. And a lot of homes that we've been showing this morning have also been damaged. We want to mention that the Red Cross, we did speak with Red Cross personnel on air this morning, and they have set up several shelters. More will be opening as daylight approaches. But we want to quickly run through the list. If you can get to one of those shelters where you can get some water and some food and some help and a safe place to lay your head as well. We've got Ridge Church in Brookville, Ohio. We've got Morton Middle School in Vandalia, Ohio. The First Baptist Church of Kettering is now open. Trotwood High School is now open as a shelter as well. The Huffman Methodist Church in Miami County and Coldwater Eagles Lodge in Coldwater is now open as well. And as well, we've spoken with several people on air live this morning as we begin to assess the damage, including the mayor of the city of Trotwood, Mary McDonald, who said that at that shelter at the Trotwood High School, if you can't get to it yourself because there are lots of wires that are down in the streets and there are trees that are down as well, lots of apartments have been severely damaged. If you happen to see a school bus, she has dispatched the school buses throughout the city of Trotwood that are just making rounds and getting folks, residents there. So if you can flag down a school bus, if you see it in your area in the city of Trotwood, they will take you to the Trotwood High School as a shelter.
Kirsty pulled up this view about 30 minutes ago to show us. Here's the deal. Here's why this is such an important view. This is downtown Dayton. And take a look at the lights you don't see.
Right.
Look at how dark it is. Normally, this is completely lit up. Now, at its peak, a few hours ago, we had about 64,000 people in the Miami Valley and businesses without power. We're now hovering around 60,000. Speaking of live interviews right here on News Center 7. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We just got an update about 10 minutes ago for power and light, and we're up to 62,000 now.
Okay.
So we're really just fluctuating between 60 and 62,000 without power.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, this is a perfect example of what we're dealing with right here downtown Dayton. And again, a lot of darkness. If you see those headlights moving or those lights moving in the distance, that's obviously headlights on I-75. And under normal conditions, we would never see those headlights because you could not make out those lights from all of the other lights. But here it is. And again, we've been discussing, this is the largest number I've seen in the 4.5 years I've been here at News Center 7. We have more than 44,000 people without power in Montgomery County, more than 11,000 customers in Greene, nearly 4,000 in Miami, and nearly 2,000 in Mercer County. Not only that, but I just heard from my producer that Kayla Cravell was trying to move around there in Brookville to another location. She cannot get to the location she was trying to get to because of exposed gas lines. That's a whole different issue we've been talking about. Many people now, we spoke with Natalie Natalie Hetty from Vectren. She says they're shutting off gas to many areas so that they can, again, get to those lines that have been destroyed and fix them. This is all for safety reasons. And then you have the issue of water. Now, water is going to be critically important when people don't have air conditioning. They don't have gas, and it's hot, right? I mean, we are in for a very, very warm and muggy day. Kirsty will have much more of the details coming up in a minute. However, I do want to mention that we've been reporting that Dayton, Montgomery County pump stations have lost power, and that's why not only are people in Montgomery County not dealing with power or gas, but now they're asked to conserve water, and that's when these shelters become very important.
And you see that outage map there with 62,000 plus customers without power right now. Those numbers throughout the morning have continued to fluctuate. However, the lowest that we've seen has been 59,000 customers. So the good news in all of this is that crews have been dispatched and they are working diligently all over the Miami Valley. Again, when we did speak with Marianne Cable from DP&L, she said, don't assume that your neighbor has alerted DP&L to the outage in your neighborhood. Please call that 877-4-outage number to report any outages in your neighborhood. And the other piece of this, the good news, is that they are a part of a mutual aid network with bordering states and area counties that are not as affected as we are here in the Miami Valley. And they are all right now heading to the Miami Valley to help DP&L restore service. Now, as we mentioned, we have crews all over the Miami Valley showing you the different destruction. We are going to go now to News Center 7's Gabrielle Enright, who is in the Beaver Creek area. Gabrielle.
Letitia, I'm here at Rose Hill, and this is off of Grange Hill, and this is an area that was devastated earlier this morning. I want to show you. This is a living room. I was just taking you here a little bit ago. This is James and Tracy's living room, and I mentioned they were in the basement, and you can see it's a good thing. Why? Because if you look up, there's no roof. Everything came crashing down on top of whatever was in here. And if you look a little closer, there are bricks from the chimney that actually went down and hit anything that was in its path. You think about getting under something sturdy. You get under something that, will basically hold you safe if there's anything that falls on top of you. And there's not a lot of options when there's not a lot of time. And thankfully, this family, they were in the basement with two 13-year-old girls. But they tell me the time of morning and evening that we started seeing these watches and warnings, they normally were in the bedrooms. And I want to show you where that would be. If they didn't hear the tornado sirens, if they weren't paying attention to their phones, take a look at where they would have been sleeping. This is what it looks like in here, and you can just see the beams from the ceiling fell from the sky, and there's no roof anymore. The insulation is everywhere. The ceiling fan's still hanging up there, but the rest of the foundation is basically gone. And you look and you start thinking about, if this family had really been sleeping, they weren't paying attention to the signs, the sirens, the warnings that they were hearing. Now I want to show you, even at the other bedroom, there's another bedroom just behind them and over to this is one of the kids' bedrooms. And if you look in there, you can see the insulation. The roof is gone, the insulation's dangling. The ceiling fan, again, still there, but definitely dangling. And this is where somebody would have been sleeping. So we talk about the notifications. We talk about how it takes just minutes. And the family said that they actually heard the tornado sirens. They had been out on the river canoeing and kayaking earlier in the day. They said they really weren't thinking too much about the possibility of severe weather, which a lot of people don't. It was Memorial Day. They were having cookouts. They were out there. But the next thing you know, they started realizing, maybe I should start thinking. And as a result of that, they heard those sirens and they took cover immediately, and that likely saved them from some serious injury and possibly even saved their life. Again, looking here just at every room in the house, the ceiling is just gone. So we'll continue to talk with James and Tracy. You'll hear from them coming up in just a few minutes. I'm going to send in an interview I just did with them. They say they're still in shock. Reporting live, Gabrielle Enright, News Center 7.
And so are we, looking at the pictures. Thankfully, they were warned and they did take cover. If you have not ever downloaded our weather app, my goodness, this is the time to do it. This is the reason it is so important. You get watches and warnings as they are issued in real time. audible alerts, even when the app isn't opened, if you go ahead and allow and sign up for that. And the WHIO weather app, so crucial, as well as our Storm Center 7 meteorology team. They've been working overnight since 9 o'clock last night. We've been on the air trying to prepare people and tell them what was coming, and since then tell them what has happened. And that family that Gabrielle just showed us, that family home that is destroyed. Had they been in bed and not paid attention and not heeded the warnings, this could have been tragic.
Yeah, they could have lost their lives there. You see those giant beams into the beds. It's very scary. We want to go to a new image. Again, it continues to come in. What you're looking there is a trampoline. Now, it is upside down, obviously. Those are the braces sticking into the air. The padding, and I assume probably a net, like most trampolines have now, is lying on the ground in front of that trampoline. Just another example of the damage we are seeing around the Miami Valley. We're now getting close to 5:30 for your Tuesday morning. I know many people will have to hit the road and go to work on a day like today. It's a great time to remind you as well that AM 1290 and News 95.7 WHIO, our partners on the radio side, will also continue to keep you covered throughout the morning, even as you leave. Again, if you're just joining us at 5:24, we went on the air moments after 9 p.m. last night as several significant storms made their way across the Miami Valley. This is what it looks like now. A relatively calm Main Street, but again, if you see those lights flashing in the distance, that's because we are still at more than 60,000 people without power, many without gas, and now many across Montgomery County being told to conserve water if at all possible. It was a very difficult night. It's going to be an extremely difficult weeks to come with the cleanup and the damage. We do know Sean Cudahy was in Salina out in Mercer County. There was several people reportedly injured with minor injuries. However, they did go to the hospital to be checked out. We've spoken with Ohio Task Force 1. They're getting their crews together to help local fire, EMS, law enforcement. Now, again, this is a very highly elite group of trained first responders that normally go far, far away from the Miami Valley. Very rarely do they work right here in our own backyard, but that's exactly what they're doing right now. We spoke with Brianna Wooten from Montgomery County. They're coordinating all of their efforts with county resources and local resources as well. We've spoken with the mayor of Trotwood. They're getting all of their resources together, working with the Red Cross and making sure that their local residents have somewhere to go. We've spoken with Natalie Hetty from Vectren about what to do if your gas is out. You can call and report it. Get out of the home. She says if you smell gas, immediately get out of the home. We spoke with Marianne Cable from DP&L. She says if you're without power, you are one of many. Please be patient, and if at all possible, call 877-4-OUTAGE. Again, O-U-T-A-G-E, so 877-4-OUTAGE, and report that outing. And of course, do not ever approach a downed power line. Again, we're doing our very best to have Team 7 weather coverage this morning and have every angle covered. We have Kayla Curvell, we have Sean Cudahy, we have Gabrielle Enright, we have meteorologist Dante Jones and Kirsty Zontini in our weather center tracking the very latest. Right now, we've talked about, now we're worried about cleanup. We're worried about flash flooding in many counties because we saw so much rain during these storms in such a short period of time. And we're trying to do our best to keep an eye on these numbers of power outages that are the largest I've seen.
At last check, we were at 62,000 customers without power. We've been showing you intermittently different looks at this shot of the city of Dayton. You can see many more lights are on right here than we last showed you, but those numbers have been fluctuating throughout the morning as far as the power outages are concerned. Now, when we did speak with the representative from Dayton Power and Light, she not only told us that other crews are coming in and they are working just as hard as DP&L is to restore service around the Miami Valley, but she also said please do not just assume that your neighbors have called in the outage in your particular neighborhood. In order for them to be able to restore service, they have to know where service is out. Service has been fluctuating, so if your service is out in your area, you are asked to call the 877-4-OUTAGE number. That's 877 4, the number 4, and then OUTAGE to report the fact that your service is now out.
This isn't just homes. We're talking about businesses as well, you know, from Family Dollars there on North Dixie, really the entire strip mall to gas stations. We have Hera Arena with significant damage there, Wing Sports Bar in Vandalia, and a major one that we spoke with the owners, and they did already tell our News Center 7 crew live that they will rebuild, is the Action Sports Complex in Dayton. Now, this is near Dayton Children's Medical Center. It's the home of 2 indoor soccer fields and several sporting fields, soccer and baseball outside, all damaged. That 30,000 square foot building essentially destroyed this Tuesday morning. You know, I took a moment to talk about the beauty in a disaster like this and how neighbors are checking on neighbors. These business owners say they're just thrilled that no one was injured and no children were in their facility at the time. Glass half full. Gabrielle Enright was actually out in Beaver Creek. She spoke with a nurse who described it as shell shock, and she said she went door to door checking on her neighbors. So again, it's been kind of an unreal evening and morning. And Kirsty, I know you've been tracking this for hours now, and I know we're still dealing with right now, at least it appears for a few more minutes, for a flash flood warning. Is that right?
Yeah, that goes until 5:45. So likely they'll probably be pulling that back. I haven't seen any new reports of flooding because the rain has stopped. So there's going to be a little bit of the ability for that to recede, which is good news. In terms of the amount of damage, we've definitely been dealing with that, and you can see why. The video there, you hear the sirens in the distance there as they're dealing with the tornado warning. I think this video is out of Greene County. Not for certain though, but you could see that just frequent lightning. I think at one point Dante said prolific lightning, and that is probably the best way to describe it. This is out of Huber Heights, in Montgomery County, and you could see there. We did show you that photo, which if I can pull that up again, I will show you it again, of the Dayton area when this is from Dustin. He was able to capture with a lightning strike. It lit up the sky enough, and you could see that large tornado. So that's, you know, kind of terrifying that this was happening at night. Yeah. Makes it hard to see, makes it hard to get your ground on terms of what's coming towards you. And that photo that Dante and I had talked about earlier, zoom in a little bit for you as well. I mean, this was a night of tornadic thunderstorms, not just one, likely several, if not one that touched down and then touched down multiple times. So the National Weather Service will be out later this morning. They were very busy. They're going to be busy surveying not only the Dayton area, Trotwood sustained damage probably near Brookville as well, but even into Greene County. Jamestown, at one point, they had reported seeing a funnel cloud. And then up in Salina, where Sean Cuddy was.
It really speaks to technology, though, Kirsty. The fact that you are able to show us storm reports, and even our Eyewitness 7 reporters able to just capture that with the help of the lightning to light it up for us to take a picture, but to show us that rotation and the twister there. Yeah. I mean, we're of course, you know, we're lucky. We've got great technology to be able to share things very quickly. But just radar technology overall is fantastic. Different tools to not only look at the wind flow within a storm and show you rotation, but we have tools to even show you things that aren't raindrops, so we could see if there's debris that's lofted in the air from some of these tornadic storms, which was a product that Chief Meteorologist McCall Ridings and Dante Jones used yesterday. Dante is working on Max 2, which we'll check in with him in just a minute, but I do want to go over just briefly. A lot of people were asking about the ratings of the storms on Facebook. You know, we're not going to get those until later today. We share them immediately with you when we can. We also will have crews out, so you're going to be able to see, you know, what they're seeing. We'll show you live on air. I'm going to pop over here real quickly. Miami Valley, we typically see some EF0s, possibly some EF1 tornadoes. That's a little more common for us. And when you're talking about the damage that you're going to get from that, an EF0 tornado, you're going to have maybe some shingles thrown about a yard, some shallow trees that maybe don't have very deep roots. They could be snapped or broken off. And for tornado damage, of course, you're going to see high concentration damage throughout
thrown in different directions. And you'll also notice, which this occurred with the last storm damage report that the National Weather Service was out doing, that they had highlighted the fact that it was very small clusters. So you have 1 or 2 houses in a neighborhood that are damaged, and then a couple houses that are completely fine, and then another swath of damage. So that's also sometimes indicative of tornadoes. EF1, you're going to start to see significant roof damage, which is something we've been sharing photos and videos with you. And you're also going to get windows and doors blown out of homes. And then for an EF2 tornado, the roof of a house is going to be a well-constructed home will be torn off. You're going to see those large old trees completely uprooted, and really it's seeing the major damage to well-constructed homes and buildings and businesses as you start to go higher up in the EF scale that you're going to start to see. So we may go into EF3, so we're going to just really have to see what happens, but some of the damage of the homes and the schools, those are well-constructed buildings. So that is what we'll continue to be filling you in on. Meteorologist Dante Jones is with me. He was tracking these storms last night with Chief Meteorologist McCall Bradegg, so he's going to share a little bit more about with me, you know, what that was like, Dante.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, we have been tracking these storms really since last week when we saw the ingredients starting to come together.
Yeah.
And the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center out in Norman, Oklahoma, also tracking these as well. And they issue these outlooks to say, you know, we've taken a sample of the atmosphere and what the atmosphere is capable of. And they've told us even later this afternoon, they said there's an enhanced risk of severe weather, and then they enhanced that risk even further and said the tornado threat has now increased. That was in the space of 1 hour.
Right.
Kirsty. You know, 1 hour they said, you know what, we've got to increase this as these storms really trek from Illinois to Indiana, and the air over Ohio also very unstable with a lot of wind shear and rotation in some of these storms. And so they've given us the threat as we went throughout the evening, and then we knew that by the time we head towards 9 o'clock in the evening, these storms entered the Miami Valley, that they were really going to stay strong. There would be no weakening, and the shearing environment, what we use to look at in terms of tornadoes and tornado activity, and supercell thunderstorms, which are these really long and large, long-lived thunderstorms, we started to track that as well. And the ingredients really came together, and we knew that that would be a primary threat across the Miami Valley. So hopefully, you know, a lot of folks coming off holiday, the long holiday weekend, settling down for the evening, 9 o'clock, a lot of folks at home heeded some of the warnings, some of the messages we sent out, as opposed to being a Friday or Saturday night where folks are out enjoying the evening or what have you. So.
Yeah, and this was a loop back of the radar. This is not current. We are not tracking any thunderstorms right now. That is at 11:42. It's kind of looping it back, showing you where that main swath of you know, very intense lightning, large hail, likely tornadoes that were produced from these this line of thunderstorms there, and that was just hitting Montgomery County, through Miami, down into Greene, portions of Clark as well. And you could see that. I mean, that's a ton of lightning that was on those storms.
Absolutely, and that's the only reason that some folks could take some of those pictures.
Right.
Of the
frequent lightning was lighting up the sky well enough.
Absolutely was, and that's one of the threats too. You gotta stay inside when these storms roll through, because the lightning threat is imminent. When thunder roars, head indoors. That's what the National Weather Service, the phrase that they use. And then turn around, don't drown is another one. There's a lot of standing water, a lot of flash flooding. And so you don't want to drive in something, especially at night, where you don't see exactly how deep that water is.
So we just had the flash flood warning expire for Miami, as well as Montgomery, Clark, and Greene. Again, I'd still be careful driving through portions of Montgomery, Greene County, and Clark and Miami. You may still run into high water, but there's not that high intensity threat right now. The rain has been over and has been over for a few hours, so this is the current look at live Doppler 7 radar. We are all catching a break. We are dry for the time being. It's still very warm and muggy, and we're getting closer to sunrise, so we're just gonna, everyone kind of gets several hours now of some dry time, but we do have the threat for more storms later.
I do want to mention very quickly, just minutes ago, Montgomery County did tweet out that now power has been lost at Trotwood High School. You may remember that's one of the locations that the Red Cross had set up a shelter. So because power was lost at Trotwood High School, they are currently, as we speak, looking for a new location to set up that shelter in Trotwood. The reason we don't have that new location is because this just happened.
Right.
So this is happening as we speak. But again, if you're a resident in Trotwood and you were going to go to the high school, I'm sure there are still people there. But at the moment, you will end up somewhere else because they have now lost power at the high school where they did set up a shelter with the Red Cross.
Busloads of folks were being taken to the Trotwood High School as a shelter. So those folks are now again stranded. We're taking a look at the outage map right there. And we've been saying all morning that the highest we've seen it was just under 65,000 customers without, and the lowest we've seen in the last couple of hours was about 59,000, but it is fluctuating. So while Trotwood High School had power initially, as you just heard Adam say, the power has gone out there at the high school, which was one of the shelters.
Okay, and I'm also told we have, I believe it's the Montgomery County Sheriff, Rob Streck. Is that right? Sheriff, can you hear me? Okay. I believe we have the Montgomery County Sheriff on the line, Rob Streck. Sheriff, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, Sheriff, first of all, I know it's 20 till 6. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're very busy. We'll only take a few moments of your time. Let me start by just asking you, what are your deputies doing at the moment? How are you aiding in what has been a very rough night and now morning here in the Miami Valley?
Yeah, we've gotten caught up on calls for service. So at this point, most of the deputies are helping fire EMS still as they're going on calls. And then a big part is blocking roadways that you can't get through.
Yeah, now, I've heard several communities saying they can't go one way or another. Why do you take that that stance? Why do you block roadways? I know some people probably get frustrated with that, but the truth is, I assume it's about safety.
Yeah, all the roads that are blocked are because of downed power lines or large trees that make them impassable.
Talk a little bit about the training that you have had and that your deputies have had that they are now activating in such a situation.
Yeah, we train on the incident command system, and we train for this stuff. Obviously, you know, the first part of the storm, it's getting to people. It's following up on the calls for service, people who are trapped in their homes, you know, and they respond to that. Once that slows down, they revert back to law enforcement protecting people's property, making sure that people aren't out preying on people who've had a bad night, and then once again, blocking roadways and everything else for safety.
And let me say, we've been talking about the good in people, but of course we do have to talk about the bad, and there is a potential, especially with all of the stores that we've been showing that have been destroyed, of looting and the like. So I assume that your deputies are handling that as well.
Yeah, there's been a couple reports already. There's been a couple robberies. So, yeah, unfortunately, in situations like this, people come out and prey on individuals. So, yes, you know, our deputies are out doing everything they can to keep that from happening.
Yeah, you know, Sheriff, we were talking about businesses being affected as well, not just homes. And I assume when you've got an entire business and there is no front to the business, when you don't have a door to lock, as a business owner, that can be a scary moment.
Very scary, and unfortunately, there is a lot of that right now.
Okay, I also want to mention, for my own knowledge, I know you oversee the jail. We're talking about many people. We're talking about many of your staff members there. Is the power still on at the jail? Do they still have water? Do they still have gas?
Yes. The storm never took a path towards the Montgomery County Jail, so operations at the jail were unaffected, which is a very good thing. And once again, the Regional Dispatch Center, they've been very busy, busier than I've ever seen, and the storm didn't affect them, so operations kept going just as they needed to go.
Sheriff, we had on one of the leaders of Ohio Task Force 1 just about 20 minutes or so ago, and he was talking about do's and don'ts in a situation like this, and he also said, you know, the Emergency Resource Center, the 911 Dispatch Center, is extremely busy in a time like this. Are you guys seeing that as well?
Yeah, the Regional Dispatch Center took about 2,800 calls for service, or telephone calls, in an hour period. So, yes, 911, use it for an emergency, use it for when people are injured and need help. Other than that, call the non-emergency number or just wait a while.
All right, Sheriff, good advice. Thank you so much. Sheriff Rob Streck of Montgomery County on the phone for us, talking about the work that his deputies are doing to assist residents throughout Montgomery County.
Now we want to get back to News Center 7. Sean Cudahy as our Team 7 weather coverage continues. He's been in Salina there in Mercer County for several hours now. Sean, how are things shaping up as we speak?
Adam and Letitia, good morning. One bit of good news since I last saw you last. The mayor is now telling me power has been restored to 75% of the city, just not the areas in some of these neighborhoods just down the street beyond this police barrier right here that sustained some serious damage. I want to go ahead and show you, as you can see off in the distance, lights from a fire truck down there. That is where a major tree is on the power line. As it gets a little lighter, I think we'll be able to give you a much clearer view of that. Let's go ahead and show you some video from the area that was hardest hit here in Salina. You can see just major damage to some of these homes in this area. Truly remarkable to see what this storm did. People reported being in their house, hearing deafening noises coming, and then coming upstairs to find just how substantial the destruction was. I spoke with the mayor a little while ago. He told me 7 people taken to the hospital with injuries.
If you'll recall back in 2017, when that on a Sunday afternoon when the tornado hit, we could assess that damage fairly quickly right up front. Unfortunately, this didn't hit until late in the evening. It was already dark. It makes it very difficult. So that, and with the rain, at least it's not cold, but it is one that we can't assess all the damage. One of my councilmen, their house got hit back in here last night, this evening. So I know that we've been in contact with a number of folks inside that are okay. They're trying to clean up. I was very pleased to find out how many people actually immediately went to a basement, an area of safety. Some did not, those that got injured, but they were doing some search and rescue on some of the houses where they were able to get those out.
And back out here live, that search and rescue has continued overnight, and you're looking live again at these power lines. So crews not just dealing with the damage to these houses, but also this the issues with trees on top of power lines like we're seeing all over the region this morning. And the mayor mentioned one of the things they're really looking forward to is things beginning to get lighter. We're starting to see things lighting up a little bit here, and they really expect the cleanup efforts can kick into gear once it gets even lighter than this. Live in Salina, Sean Cudahy, News Center 7.
Sean, thank you. I think the good news there is that 75% of the power in Salina has been restored. At one point, Sean was talking with the mayor and told us that all of the power was out in the city of Salina. Now, we spoke with a man whose house was damaged in West Milton. He describes for us what the storm felt like.
Looking out on some of the block windows in the basement, you could see the wind changing direction on the trees from east to west, and as obviously you could poke your face out the mesh a little bit, you could feel the pressure kind of change and draw a little bit of vacuum as well. Definitely scary. You know, obviously be prepared. Keep your flashlights charged, keep your batteries charged. Go to the basement when they tell you to go to the basement. Do what you're supposed to do.
Advice, do what you're supposed to do. Good advice. A lot of tree damage in this neighborhood as well. Take a look here. This is off of State Route 48 there in West Milton. And authorities told us long ago in that area that West Milton, Laura, and Ludlow Falls was among the hardest hit, and non-emergency traffic should stay away. But I think that's good advice for all over the Miami Valley this morning.
Yeah, speaking of our Team 7 weather coverage, we have a crew at Morton Middle School on Peters Pike. That school, of course, one of several shelters around the Miami Valley, and we're speaking with victims of the storm there.
Our kitchen window is now gone. The top of our roof of our house is gone.
There's a pole on it.
Yeah, there's a big, huge pole on top also. It's destroyed.
And we also want to take a look right here. Laura in Miami County sent us this. As you can see, this is in Miami County, and you can see how heavy the damage is there. Dark clouds coming from the sky.
That's right. And this video into us from one of our Eyewitness 7 reporters. This is out of Farmersville in Montgomery County. You can hear there were tornado sirens in the air, or in the distance there. You can hear them there as the lightning lit up the sky there. Take a look at that. As Storm Center 7 meteorologists have been saying all night and into the morning, they were telling the families there at this time to take cover to keep the families safe as those storms pass through. And as we've said all morning, I'm sure that our team have saved thousands of lives.
Yeah, 547, we do want to get the new video from one of our Eyewitness 7 reporters in Huber Heights in Riverside area. Just as this video began, a woman says she heard a huge explosion right there.
For the whole street.
Again, the power went out for the whole street. You can see the thick storm clouds as lightning lights up the sky there. News Center 7, of course, you can count on us to continue to track these storms throughout the morning and into tonight, and the cleanup is just beginning.
I think that we have some more video of damage, and we are working to speak with, again, this is a live shot from our drone, our Sky 7 drone, showing that damage in the Miami Valley. Just amazing shot of just how devastating this is. I don't know exactly where this is. If we could tell me where we're looking, but this is from our Sky 7 drone. This is live video there. You can see all of the destruction as well. And why we are remaining on air, continuing our Team 7 weather coverage this morning. We know that Ohio Task Force 1 has been activated. Several deputies in several counties are out. We've got fire crews and DPNL crews and veteran crews all out trying to make the area safe as possible right now for all of the residents throughout Montgomery County. Again, a live look from Sky 7 on North Dixie Drive, we're told. Now, we've been showing you several areas on North Dixie Drive in the Harrison Township area and into Dayton of just utter devastation from different stores in the area and homes in the area as well. And this really just shows us from our Sky 7 drone.
All right, we want to get straight to Mary Ann Cable. Again, DPNL back live now on the phone. Mary, thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, at last check, we were told that your team is working. You've reached out to your resources elsewhere. They're making their way to the Miami Valley. We have kept a very close eye on your DPNL outage map. We've seen as low as about 58,000, as high as 64,000. At the moment, we're right around 60,000. Can you tell us what progress has been made in the past few hours and where you go from here?
Well, we're now, Ohio Task Force 1 is moving into the city of Trotwood. They will be doing a house-to-house assessment of the various levels of damage. They will be looking to see if there are individuals present or not present, and if there is any need to go into those homes. So that's going to be the next move that's happening here in the city of Trotwood right now.
Do you chart these areas out? I mean, do you take them block by block? Do you have a crew hit street by street? How does that work?
That's currently what happens. They're at Command Central now, and they have already charted out the direction of the damage, and they'll start at that particular point and work their way throughout the community to make sure that all individuals are safe. There, again, our city staff as well as county partners have come in to help us to be able to get tree limbs out of the way so that they can assess the various areas that we've not been able to get into simply because there was no light, and we are getting all those things employed right now.
I understand that you can't get into all of the areas right now, but do you feel like you have a good assessment of the areas that are out right now, or are you still asking residents to call that number?
We're still asking residents to call the number because there is such a vast amount of damage throughout the city that we just want to make sure that folks will just check on each other and make sure that in their immediate area, that's what they can do to help out with.
And Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, I assume as you're going house to house or business to business, there are certain areas that you have to go to first. Is that correct? We've been reporting throughout the morning that Dayton Montgomery County pump station has lost power, both of them, and therefore customers need to conserve water. Do you have any update whatsoever on those specific areas?
We don't have updates on that particular information, or at least I don't have that. I've recently left Command Central just to get myself prepared to go out into the community with the police department and our various entities that are out here. So I'll better be able to give, some input on this after I've been able to see the damage. But I do know the Shiloh View area, the apartment complexes, Westbrook Village, Woodland Hills, those are areas that were hardest hit. And then we've received some information that Red Cross is saying that we're going to possibly need to move the citizens that were in this shelter, move them to another location, and we're waiting to hear what that location is going to be.
Okay, Mary. Well, I know you're very busy. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll be checking in soon. And again, that is Mary Ann Cable from DP&L. Mary, thank you.
This is Mary McDonald from the city of Trotwood.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Mary?
The mayor.
Mary McDonald from the city of Trotwood. I understand that your shelter has now gone down after bringing busloads of people there to Trotwood High School. What's the status?
Well, what had happened was Red Cross said that they needed to be someplace that was not operating on a generator, and the school is currently operating on a generator. So we're waiting now to hear what the next location is going to be, and unfortunately, we're going to possibly need to move our citizens to another location. That much since I left the building, which was probably about 10 minutes ago, I have not been given that information just yet. So, if we just ask people to hold tight with us and to know that we are working in their very, very best interest. It's a very difficult situation right now as that we have so much damage throughout the city.
And Mayor, I know you said you left the shelter or the high school about 10 minutes ago. To the best of your assessment, about how many people were there in need?
Well, I was at the command central. That's where I was located. The last number I heard was there were about 5 buses and, from what I'm hearing, close to 200 people.
Okay. And so you are going to have to move. Do you expect that to still be in the city of Trotwood, or do you have any indication of where that next shelter might be that's not on a generator? Because I know there are lots of outages there in the city of Trotwood.
Exactly. I am not sure if it's going to be here in the city of Trotwood. The next location that I heard was going to be over in the Harrison Township area.
Okay.
So that was what I heard last. North, I can't think of the name of the school, was where the citizens would be going. So we're really kind of up in the air on where that location is going to be, but as soon as I know, I will get that information to you.
Thank you. And what are you telling your residents? I know that you've been able to get a small assessment of the city. First of all, before what you're telling your residents, tell us where the hardest hit areas in the city of Trotwood are again.
Correctly. Salem Village was a very hard hit area. The area of Shiloh View, Shiloh View, Westbrook Village, Woodland Hills Apartments, those are the areas that were hardest hit. And what we're basically telling our citizens, if they do not have to go out, please do not, as they are still assessing and getting lines up. As a matter of fact, I just got home, and I have lines down in the back of my yard. So we're just asking people to stay in just to be safe.
Now, we did just talk with a spokesperson from Dayton Power and Light who said from their command central they have people who have been dispatched to Trotwood, suggesting that Trotwood is one of those harder hit areas.
Correct. It definitely has been hit hard in terms of our, the overall of the city. Certain areas definitely are a lot harder hit than others, but, again, we're just being able through the light of day to be able to assess what the damage is.
And Mayor, again, this is Adam. I just want to take a moment to apologize for mixing you up. Apparently, we thought we were calling one person, and we called you. And again, all of this is coming in as breaking details, and we're hearing moment by moment on who we're speaking with. So again, I just wanted to take a moment and apologize.
Oh, absolutely.
And thank you for your service to your city. And again, we'll be touching base as soon as you have a new location for that shelter. We'll be sure to pass that along.
Absolutely. We'll get the information out to you, Letitia, so you'll have it.
All right. I'll be looking
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in touch shortly.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Now, not only has the mayor of Trotwood and the deputies that we've spoken with and the representatives from DP&L and Vectren and others been very, very busy into these morning hours, so has our Storm Center 7 team of meteorologists have been working for hours now, assessing where the storm is coming, letting us know, and then now kind of recapping what's going on and looking forward, forecasting what we can expect later today.
Yeah, because unfortunately we're not dry the rest of the week. We've got the threat for more storms even later today and then again on Wednesday. But we did want to talk a little bit. Dante was here with Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydaghs. I came in overnight as well about what we were seeing, and these were strong areas of rotation. These are photos of tornadoes, funnel clouds, and the damage, the amount of damage. Even what we just showed on our Sky 7 drone, I mean, that building was completely destroyed. So I did pull back. This is velocity, which is one of our radar tools that we use. Shows us wind or movement within the storm, and it could show us rotation or where you have strong straight line winds as well. And you could see that rotation. I mean, there were several couplets that had been well distinguished. This is one that's showing you south of Greenville there. You could see just north of I-70. This one, as it was moving through portions of Miami County. So not surprised if we're going to get reports, or that we have gotten reports there. That's likely another area the Weather Service will be taking their survey. And I-75, we had rotation that crossed completely over I-75. So likely the tornado or report of tornado and funnel cloud.
North of Dayton International Airport.
Exactly.
By Tip City.
And actually, I had a few people, or at least reports of hail that was at the airport. So they may have some damage there. We'll have to check in on them. And then we put it together here a little further. You can see that rotation again, moving over I-75, which is a main highway that we had this defined circulation.
And if you'll notice right there, Kirsty, that's where that storm is passing right over, it looks like, right towards the Harrison Township area, just on the, right on the other side of 75 here. Right. That would be indicative right there of where that damage is that we just showed you with Sky 7. So that our technology is really matching up with the damage reports that we're seeing.
So then you saw it continue to move over northern Greene County, and then we had what could have been another area of rotation again over near Huber Heights, or at least some strong winds. And then you saw Jamestown, which was I think the last city that people either had reported seeing a funnel cloud or tornado on the ground.
The National Weather Service also said that there was a tornado on the ground near the Jamestown area. So
so this was a look back, guys, at that swath of very strong tornadic thunderstorms where we had all of the damage line up, and it does go right with where the rotation had been developing. So in terms of the scale of what people are going to be looking at when it comes to damage, Dante and I had talked about this a little bit earlier. We typically see EF0, EF1 type of damage, which would be light to moderate. In the Miami Valley, we have had several EF2, EF3, and I think that that's likely going to be the categories that we're coming into. If not, I mean, we really have to see where they're going with some of the buildings that were hurt, because that's a part of the analysis that they're doing.
Exactly, and if we'll read off some of these things, some of the damage here that are reported. When the National Weather Service looks at these, you're looking at significant roof damage, windows broken, exterior doors damaged or lost, mobile homes overturned or badly damaged. We've seen all that, and that's an EF1. And then the EF2, considerable damage, which we're talking roof torn off of well-constructed homes, homes shifted off their foundation. We've seen both of those. Mobile homes completely destroyed. Large trees snapped or uprooted. Cars can be tossed. That's an EF3 right there.
And so we've seen kind of that as well. So of course they'll be very busy, the National Weather Service. I know we're going to get here to a little bit more of what's going on last night, but for everyone that's wondering, we do have storms that are possible later today. So I just want to quickly show you Futurecast. We're quiet through the morning. The sun is rising now. You're starting to see daylight, and we will stay dry through at least midday. But once we head towards that 4, 5, 6 o'clock window, if you're north of I-70, we're going to have a boundary drift south again into a very warm, moist air mass. That's going to give us lift for more thunderstorms later this afternoon. So late day and into the evening, especially if you're north of Dayton, we will have the chance for some thunderstorms. They could become strong. We're not expecting it to be the exact repeat of what happened last night, but you do want to be careful. And then again, this fizzles out kind of once we lose any of the heat of the day. So for anyone that's wondering, Adam, what to show, I wanted to show Futurecast.
Sure.
Please, we do have the threat for more storms, and I don't want people to just think it's sunny and completely dry, because it's not going to be later this afternoon. So quick update for you guys there.
Property may have been spared overnight, but there's more coming, so
yeah,
you know,
really
and cleanup that will set back for cleanup.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of ramifications. We need to know the Futurecast, so thank you for that.
Well, we now want to get to Sergeant Gary Lawson from Vandalia Police Department. I believe we have him live on the phone. Sergeant, are you there?
I am.
Well, thank you for joining us. First of all, we'll let you get back to the job. You know, we've been trying to get as many people as we can live on here to give us perspective of their little piece of the Miami Valley. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We were speaking about how one of these possible twisters went over I-75 just north of Dayton. I believe that was in the Vandalia area. Is that correct?
It looks like that's very possible. We did have quite a bit of damage in that area.
So my next question obviously is, what is your police department doing at the moment? Have you called in extra officers? Is your 911 dispatch overwhelmed, or does everything seem to be systematic and somewhat under control?
Everything's under control. We did have a little bit of help early on. The fire department was very involved in our street department. We had to close down some streets, you know, for the safety because of down power lines and trees. But everything's well under control right now.
And Sergeant, we spoke with Montgomery County Sheriff just moments ago, Rob Streck. He said the same thing. His crews, his deputies are out closing down streets for safety reasons. He also said, though, that he's had some reports of some businesses basically being looting. We've been showing business after business here this morning. It's hard to shut the front doors and lock it when there is no front door, when there is no front of the business. Have you had any reports like that this morning?
No, we haven't, and we've tried to keep an eye on all of our businesses with the power outages and whatnot, but everything seems to be fine right now.
Sergeant Lawson, bottom line, and it seems like it should be obvious, but if you would, what is your message right now to the residents of Vandalia?
Well, you know, business as usual, but in the areas that have been affected, which is primarily the southern portion of Vandalia, between Benchwood and Stop 8, you're not going to be able to get around in that area, so to avoid that for now. And in intersections where the power is out, which there have been several, just make sure that you're using those as a stop sign so that we don't have any accidents we have to deal with as well.
I'd call Benchwood the Stop 8 area, Restaurant Row there. What does it look like over there?
Well, there is some damage to the businesses on the south side of Benchwood, which is in our city. There are some more than others, and there are some houses that have been damaged as well. Being as it's been in the dark, it's hard to assess the extent of it at this point.
Yeah, and now that daylight is approaching, I'm sure that your team is driving around to get a better assessment of the damage.
That is correct.
All right, Sergeant, I certainly thank you for taking time out. That's Sergeant Gary Lawson of the Vandalia Police Department. We will appreciate your work, and we will let you get back to it at this point. Thank you so much.
All right, Sergeant, thank you. We're going to continue our Team 7 weather coverage now at 6:05. We want to get back out to Kayla Cravell. She began at Brookville High School there in Montgomery County, where there was extreme damage. She's then moved on to homes, even an automotive shop that we saw completely destroyed with the vehicles inside. And from what I can tell behind you, Kayla, yet more damage.
Adam, that's right. We were actually trying to get to the neighborhoods behind the school. I was looking on social media, people talking about all this damage behind the school. We cannot get back there. It looks like an absolute war zone. And I said earlier we couldn't find the roof to the high school. It was blown back behind there. And if you take a look over here, you can see another building behind me here that's damaged. Again, this is right off of Brookville-Johnson Road. This is behind that auto shop that we told you about earlier, and you can see that building. And as we move even just a little bit farther down the road, there's a home here as well. There are down power lines. I do believe they have turned all of those off. DP&L was out here earlier, but you can see this home, the windows busted out. The roof looks like it's almost caving in some areas. Pieces of it looks like a red roof there. Those are smashed through the front window. And then up even a little bit farther on the road, another building completely demolished. This is off of right off of, again, Brookville-Johnson Road. And another road off of that, you can see where all that damage is. And you can see where those trees and debris came down on those power lines. Those are the power lines they were working on turning off earlier. And I just want to take a moment to look at the signage, the road signs. You can see how they were just completely bent on the side of the road there, both leaning almost the same way. Right now you can see just incredible, what this storm did here in this area. And I want to just move the camera over this way. It looks like some things were picked up and then dropped onto more power lines on this road. So you can see just the devastation in this area. And I don't even think we've seen a portion of it, just because so many roads are blocked off, gas lines exposed. Again, Brookville High School, no school today. The roof is off the school. They won't even let anyone back there now. We were able to see it earlier this morning, and the damage is just so widespread out here. There are people just kind of coming out of the areas right now, taking a look at a lot of the damage. So we're working on talking with them, and we're going to try and get back and see some more damage that's there behind the school as well. Adam, Letitia, till then, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Kayla, thank you for that. She's been able to show us various parts of the Brookville area. Take a look at this from our Sky 7 drone. We've been in the Vandalia area, taking drone footage of all of the destruction along North Dixie Drive. I'm not sure what we're looking at here, but you can tell that it's destroyed. The storms were that severe. Both Kirsty and Dante have been talking about the severity of the storms and how the National Weather Service will be out assessing to put a number on that EF tornado those tornadoes that have come through. But if you just take a look at this, it really doesn't matter what they say as far as the number. The damage is just significant.
I could be wrong, but this is a live look, but I believe this is that North Dixie area.
Gotcha, where we saw a Rite Aid destroyed. We saw an entire strip mall destroyed. And if this is what we're looking at here, you can see from above, the air view really shows you just how destructive those storms were. Yeah, you see the right Family Dollar there. So this is on North Dixie Drive there as our Sky 7 drone continues to make its way across that shopping center. Fortunately, the storm came through at a time when the stores were closed, which means no people were inside at the time, and that is the good news. We have to try and find bits and pieces of good news as we continue to survey this damage.
I also want to mention, if you take a look there on the right portion of your screen, that's a sheriff's cruiser. So we just spoke with Montgomery County Sheriff Rob Streck. He said his guys are out, and gals, his deputies are out shutting down roadways, making sure people are staying safe. However, he also said that they've had reports of looting, of people breaking into businesses. For example, this Family Dollar, I'm not saying anything has happened at this Family Dollar, but I can tell you that there is no front to that business, right? So when your doors get literally blown off and there are no doors, it's hard to lock a business. All the things inside, anyone can access this. At the same time, we spoke with Ohio Task Force 1, and they essentially said, stay at home or stay in the shelter or stay away from these heavily damaged areas. If you think you're helping, the truth is there's enough emergency personnel. You're probably just getting in the way. Another good tip that he gave us was call 911 if there's an emergency. Do not call 911 for normal, everyday information at this point. Again, I believe Sheriff Streck said 2,800 calls the Regional Dispatch Center had to answer, 911 calls within an hour. So you can imagine they were probably on the phone the entire time, everyone calling in new crews. But again, this here North Dixie, and this is what's left of a business, an aerial view thanks to Sky 7.
And speaking of 911, Ohio Task Force 1 was saying, you know, keep that line open for emergency calls. They were having to weed out calls, fielding calls about, you know, is my grandmother safe at this address? That is not their primary priority right now. Their goal is to accept those emergency calls and respond to those emergency calls for help. There are a lot of them coming in. Take a look at this damage. This, again, is along North Dixie Drive, north of Dayton. This is our Sky 7 drone and air view of what has happened throughout the night and into the morning. And I suspect that this is not the only business along North Dixie Drive that sustained this kind of damage. We've been showing you several homes and businesses all over the Miami Valley, not just in this portion of the Miami Valley, that sustained similar damage.
If you're just waking up, it is 6:12. We have now been on air covering this the entire time for more than 9 hours since these storms started to roll in. Cheryl McHenry was here. Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydaghs was here. Dante Jones has been here since. Letitia and myself, as well as Storm Center 7 meteorologist Kirsty Zontini, continue our Team 7 coverage. We have Kayla Curvell in Brookville. We have Sean Cuddy. He's been there all night now into the morning in Salina and Mercer County. We have Gabrielle Enright on scene there in Beaver Creek. She showed us some of the major damage both outside and inside of homes and businesses. The bottom line, this has been a major event. There is major damage. Let's talk about power. We've had about 60,000 without power around the Miami Valley according to the DP&L power outage map. There's the very latest. We're now at 57,300 and some change. Obviously, most of those power outages in Montgomery and Greene County, with more than 50,000 just between those counties, but also more than 2,500 in Miami and nearly 2,000 in Mercer. We also want to talk about gas. We spoke with Vectren earlier. They're shutting off a lot of gas lines as we speak. Again, all out of safety. Kayla actually couldn't get to one of the locations she was hoping to get to because of exposed gas lines. And then we have water issues, and that's from the loss of power. Dayton, Montgomery County pump stations have lost power. They're still working to get that power back, but they're asking all customers in Montgomery County to conserve water if at all possible. And Letitia, I believe you have some information about an update coming from the city of Dayton here, in about 45 minutes,
In
right?
about 45 minutes, the city of Dayton will provide an update, and we expect to learn new numbers and find out more about the damage that we've been showing you in the areas that is in Dayton specifically. They are going to have another formal update at 7 o'clock. We will have a crew there. We do have crews dispatched all over the Miami Valley right now. That's how we're getting these pictures and this video. And we also have a crew of unofficial reporters, our Eyewitness 7 reporters, who have been safely being able to take video and pictures and show us damage so that we may show you.
We spoke with the Red Cross earlier. They have several shelters set up, one being Ridge Church in Brookville, the Morton Middle School in Vandalia, the First Baptist Church in Kettering, the Hoffman Methodist Church in Miami County. And then we were lucky enough to get the mayor of Trotwood on the phone not long ago. They had a shelter with the Red Cross set up at Trotwood High School. As you mentioned, people were being bused to Trotwood High School, and then, believe it or not, the high school lost power. So they are currently working at last check to find a new shelter for residents there in Trotwood.
Yes, and I keep checking my phone. She's been in contact with me to see where the updated information is on that new shelter in Trotwood. But as I understand, the Red Cross wanted to have those shelters at places that were not operating on a generator, and Trotwood High School, which was one of the original shelters announced this morning, was in fact operating on a generator. So they are now currently looking for a new place in the Trotwood area, perhaps out of city limits, but still close enough that we can get Trotwood residents there. Now, there are 5 school buses, according to Mayor Mary McDonald, 5 school buses in the Trotwood area operating right now, driving the city streets. So if you see one, by all means, flag it down. You can get on there and they will take you to the nearest shelter.
We do have several people reportedly with minor injuries that did go to the hospital out in Mercer County. Also, we were talking about this has had such a huge impact last night, now into the morning, and really for weeks and months to come because of the densely populated areas that these storms hit. We spoke with Sergeant Gary Lawson from the Vandalia Police Department moments ago, and you know, they mentioned the possible twister that went directly across I-75 just north of Dayton. Again, we're talking about one of the busiest interstates in the country, and ODOT, to respond, got out their snow plows. Now, many people, including the young lady that runs our teleprompter here in our studio, saying she was wondering what the snow plows were doing out. Well, they were literally scraping debris off of I-75, whether it be debris from businesses and homes to tree limbs, because they treated it like a snowstorm. There was so much stuff on the interstate that they had to just plow it off, hopefully to make a path for traffic.
In addition to our Storm Center 7 meteorologists who've been very busy keeping us safe overnight, DP&L crews are out, and they have a network, a mutual aid network that they have called in from bordering states to come and help restore some of the 60,000+ outages around the Miami Valley. On the phone right now, again, Marianne Cable, who is with Dayton Power and Light. And Marianne, what can you tell us? What's the latest?
Hi, Letitia. Thanks for your coverage, you and Adam. I know you've been on all night, as have our crews. So right now, we've been able to restore power where we can, and those numbers are down from a high of over 60,000. At this time, we still, with the breaking daylight, that will give us a better chance to really look into the power outages and make our assessments. So we're making progress, but with that in mind, we had tornadic winds, a lot of damage. So trees are down, lines are down. I can't say often enough about safety because people are waking up and seeing, you know, devastation and debris. So if you are experiencing an outage, we need to hear from you. We need you to be safe and be wise with regard to the lines down and trees. Don't take it upon yourself to do any of that. You've got to call us and make sure that DP&L can get in there and get the area safe.
And safety is key. And as you mentioned, you know, daylight is here now, and people are just being able to get out of their homes and assess the damage on their property. And many times you will run into wires and you think, oh, I'll just move these, or I'll move the tree that's on them. And that is absolutely a no-no.
Absolutely not. You know, this is neighbors helping neighbors right now. People are checking on their neighbors. They're checking on family and friends. I see several Facebook messages where people are asking each other, tell me if you're okay. Or they're saying, I'm in a safe spot. I'm fine. Family's fine. We need to share that information as neighbors. But from a safety perspective, help with regard to electrical lines and the trees down on electrical lines are DP&L.
And Mary, I do want to just clarify something as well. As we approach 6:20 in the morning, I know a lot of people are going to be leaving their homes. Maybe where they are, they don't have damage, but they will see damage during their morning commute. I think many of us know not to move a lines, let's say with our bare hands that's in our yard or whatever. But talk for a moment about what we should do if we approach a down power line on the street and we are in our vehicle. I assume it's also never okay to drive over that line.
Oh, my goodness, no. Absolutely not. And from what I'm seeing with your coverage, there are a lot of road closings. And with those road closings, most definitely there's a danger situation. And with that danger situation, people need to heed that. If you do see a down power line and it's on the road, please avoid it. Choose an alternate path.
I'm getting text messages from people across the country. This weather has made national news, Marianne. And I know you mentioned that DP&L is part of a mutual aid network that expands or extends past the state line of Ohio. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, it is. It is the hallmark of the utilities. We help each other in need. We've been out there for many situations, whether it's been hurricanes and helping those in South Carolina or Florida. But now this time we've made the call to have those neighboring companies or neighboring utilities help us.
And I guess patience is key because, you know, as you mentioned, yes, you still want those calls at 877-4, the number 4, outage, to report the outages so that you know where you have work to do. But it's just going to take time. So I guess patience would be what you would ask of residents, particularly in Montgomery and Greene County.
Yes, please be patient. Our crews are out there. They're working. We have staff taking calls. We're fully staffed. We've asked for help. And we also want to thank the folks that are out there working through the night and into this morning and probably well into the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Because as you know, with the number of people that we have out and the amount of devastation, it's going to be a multi-day event.
Mary, I have one last question, and then we'll let you go.
Sure.
Again, we know you're very busy. We've been reporting throughout the morning that Dayton, Montgomery County pump stations have lost power, and therefore people across Montgomery County should conserve their water usage. My question is, do you have a team dedicated to that area, and do you have any update for us there?
We are working with them. So.
Gotcha. Well, we certainly appreciate you, Marianne. Marianne
Yes.
Cable from Dayton Power and Light. She's spoken with us on several occasions this morning, and I suspect we will be speaking with you again as the day progresses and as daylight is here and people are assessing their property. I'm sure you're still encouraging folks to give you a call at that 877, the number 4 outage phone number. Anything you'd like to add?
Heed all our safety tips. Look on our website if you still have power in your phone. If you're not on the phone, if you have power, you know, check to help your neighbors. Check on people that you know that are in the area there via a text or a phone or another means or someone they know. And it's neighbors helping neighbors right now.
Yeah. Practice or patience, it needs to be practiced right now because although you have crews out all over the Miami Valley and more crews coming in to help, it still may take a while before power is restored.
And we want to thank our customers for that patience.
All right, Mary, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good morning. Well, we do want to remind all of you that if you haven't already, now's a great time to download our WHIO weather app. Without a doubt, a key tool as we went into yesterday afternoon, evening, overnight, and in the morning. Also, if you are leaving and you want continued coverage, remember to listen to our partners over at AM 1290 and News 95.7 WHIO. Storm Center 7 meteorologist Kirsty Zontini has been here with us throughout the morning. She actually came in late last night and has been tracking this storm with our chief meteorologist McCall Vrodig's and Dante Jones. And I know we're still seeing new Eyewitness 7 reporter photos flooding into our Facebook page.
Yeah, I just want to show this photo again in case you had missed it. It is, and you know what? I've been here for so long, my microphone battery.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to you in just a moment. Again, live television. And again, yeah, if you could not hear her, her microphone has died, so we'll get fresh batteries in that as well. I'm on my second set, but here's what we're looking at. Well, I believe we're going to have that here in just a moment.
What we were looking at was a picture of a tornado in the Dayton area, and the only reason that Eyewitness 7 reporter could even snap that picture to send to us to show to you is because the lightning was lighting up the sky enough for several of those twisters to be shown.
Well, again, we have Team 7 coverage around the Miami Valley. We want to get back to Gabrielle Enright. She's been in Beaver Creek throughout the morning. We've seen a mandatory evacuation before the sun even began to come up. We had a nurse saying she was in shell shock but still went door to door to help neighbors. We also, Gabrielle, you showed us inside of a home and what one family had to deal with, beams literally sticking into their bed. And now I see more damage outside of homes as well.
That neighborhood I was in about 30 minutes ago, we had to evacuate. Police actually came around. They were searching door to door and said they would actually break doors down to get people out. Want to show you where I am at right now. This is a neighborhood off of Grange Hall, not far from where I was. It's in between Kemp and 675, and you can just see the damage. There is siding on the ground, and if you take a look at the windows here, punched out, the holes just punched out by all the damage and flying debris. Now, D'Angelo's panning around, and what you see now is you see mailboxes on the ground, street signs blown everywhere. And what you think about is the power of the wind to make this happen. And you start really counting the blessings of the people that they were inside when this happened. Now, this was amazing damage to me. This complex over here, this is Grange Hall Road, and you're looking, this is not far, again, between Kemp Road and also 675. And if you just take a look at the damage, I just talked with a family a few minutes ago. They told me that they took cover in their bathroom, and now part of what you're looking at is one of their homes, and it's gone. They said that they prayed. They are newly engaged. They said that they were glad that this can be replaced and they will have each other. But they also were thankful that the one room in the house, which was the bathroom, was not destroyed. But you can see just how much work is going to be needing to be done in that area that you're looking at right now, just where the first area there slammed. That's where it hit. You can just tell. And that's absolutely frightening for these people that are trying to pick up the pieces. Now, as it's getting daylight, we're able to see more damage, and just about every street that we're looking at here in this area along Kemp and Grange Hall, it looks about the same. We'll be getting an update from more people that I'm talking with, seeing how they're doing, and we'll continue to move around and show you just the extent of the damage here. Reporting live in Beaver Creek, Gabrielle Enright, News Center 7.
Gabrielle, thank you. Right now, we're taking a look at a picture that was sent to us from an Eyewitness 7 reporter in Butler Township. This is Cricket Lane, and you can see the second story of that house barely hanging on. You can see the siding, and there's a hole in the house right on that second story. This is just some of the storm damage that people have been sending us pictures of. You can see a tree down there on the side of the house as well. We are hoping that the family who lives there is okay. We will be checking on that. But lots of property has sustained damage, houses and businesses. And then we took a sky and aerial view of North Dixie Drive north of Dayton. And we talked with a police officer from the Vandalia area, very close, borderline to Butler Township as well. And just the damage has just been amazing this morning.
We were talking about how these storms hit highly densely populated areas. We're about 30 or so minutes away from an update from the city of Dayton now. Local cities have been working with counties. Local counties have been working with the state. So again, we do want to let you know that right at 7 a.m., the city of Dayton is expected to have an update from City Hall. We will be carrying that live right here on News Center 7, as well as our WHIO Facebook page. So you'll be able to see both of those as well. And again, we tried moments ago. Kirsty Zontini now has fresh batteries in her microphone. She's been on air so long, we ran through that first set of batteries, and I understand you have an update for us.
I do. So I've actually been speaking with our drone operator who has been giving us those Sky 7 views. Not only was he showing us a Family Dollar, but he also says that there was a Rite Aid that sustained major damage there as well. And also the home of a living room in a home was just completely destroyed.
Or it could be the living room business, which is right there. That's a business that's right there in that strip that we showed the
that whole strip there, the roof of almost everything in that strip was completely demolished. Which made it really hard to see. There we go. We've got him up here again. So you could see there. So that whole strip there, this was view. But anywho, so I want to take us back here. We'll take a look at the storm itself, some of the areas of rotation that we had been tracking. Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydaghs. The first tornado warning came in around 9 o'clock over in Wayne County, and then the last one was near Jamestown. So looking here, you could see where you get that dark red that's just above the Dayton area. That's that couplet that we talk about. That's a good indicator of rotation. That's a very strong couplet as well. It continued to move into Greene County, and then you could see there another area of redevelopment, and then you have that couplet that was above Jamestown. So Jamestown had reports of funnel cloud as well. So when it comes to the damage, unfortunately, now that we're especially seeing this in daylight, we're not talking likely that these are going to be falling on the weak side of the EF scale, but instead I do think we're going to go maybe 2 to 4 from the National Weather Service. Again, they have not done their damage surveys yet, but when you start to get considerable, severe, and devastating damage, that's when you start to get into those higher EF ratings. And looking at some of the businesses that had just complete destruction, some of the video that Gabrielle Enright was showing us in the homes where you were just seeing windows blown out, things of that nature, that really starts to show the strength of the tornado. Not only will the Weather Service be looking at how the damage was thrown about a property, there also will be looking at the concentration of the damage. 1 or 2 homes were damaged, then another may be okay. So that's where they're going to be. And you can see these are some of the reports that were coming in last night, some of the tornado reports. So near Trotwood, also over near Harrison, and looking a little bit further than into Greene County, they also had reports there over towards Jamestown and just off to the northeast of Wilberforce. So they're going to have a pretty wide swath of damage to kind of take a look at. And it actually did start those reports of tornadoes coming in across the southwest portion of Miami County. So you could kind of see this area where I think the National Weather Service will be out kind of focusing in on some of the clusters of damage that they had received. And then, of course, they'll not only be looking at the damage itself, but they also have to look at the buildings and the structures that were damaged or destroyed, because that all plays into where it falls on the EF rating. Well-constructed homes that are completely destroyed indicate the wind is even stronger than maybe a weak tree or a sick tree that came down because of a tornado or thunderstorm. Big picture here, we are dry for now. Everyone gets a break this morning. The sun is up. You can see the lights are still out in Xenia there, right along Main Street. Those lights are just flashing. So once again, make sure that you're driving safely this morning. If traffic lights are out, treat it as a 4-way stop. We're at 72 degrees with winds out of the southwest. Unfortunately, we do have the chance for more storms to develop later today, so we're going to be keeping an eye out on areas north of I-70 in particular for some isolated thunderstorms, not as widespread as what we just had last night. It's 69 in Troy, 70 in Xenia, 70 in Greenville. So it's warm, it's muggy with areas that don't have power and don't have water today. We're climbing all the way into the 80s this afternoon, and because of the mugginess, it will feel like 90. That takes a toll on our first responders, on really for anyone, especially the elderly, that may not have power or water today. So be careful throughout the afternoon hours. Once we head late day and early evening, you see this batch of thunderstorms that develops. That's from about 4 o'clock to 9 or 10 o'clock. These are more isolated, but they again could still pack a punch for us this evening. So we're going to watch for wind, hail, possibly an isolated tornado, though we don't expect it to be a big, strong, widespread event like what just occurred. These storms are over with pretty quickly, but we do expect more severe weather to be possible on Wednesday as well. So really this week you need to be staying tuned into the forecast, because unfortunately we carry that chance Wednesday into Thursday before we do get a little bit of dry time here for you on Friday.
You can't catch a break, Kirsten.
I know.
We want to remind people that there are several schools still in session technically, but the school closings and delays are scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Now, I just heard from the mayor of Trotwood again, and remember that one of the shelters was Trotwood High School, and then the Red Cross didn't want to use that to continue using it because they didn't want to use places that were operating on a generator. Correct. So that we were told that Trotwood High School was going to shut down as a shelter. They're still trying to make a decision as to where to move those busloads of people that had been taken to the high school away, but right now the mayor says that that decision has not been made, but citizens can still gather at the high school, and I suspect that's because now that daylight has come up, you can still kind of make your way around. Again, those school buses are still driving the city streets of Trotwood, picking up people and taking them to the high school, and when a decision on where to move will be made, then those buses will again transport those citizens who are at the high school to the new shelter.
You know, we've been talking about businesses damaged, homes damaged, but we've also been talking about injuries.
Yes.
One place where there were several minor injuries where people had to go to the hospital, that's Mercer County and Salina, and that is where our Team 7 weather coverage continues this morning with the latest from Sean Cuddy. He's been there several hours. Sean, I know it's been a very long night, now a very long morning, not only for you, but also the residents there and the first responders there. What update can you give us?
Yeah, Adam, I've been on the air with our team coverage since 9 o'clock last night. I want to show you what's going on here in Salina. We're starting to get a better look at the damage like so many parts of our area now that the sun has come up. If you look in the distance here beyond where police are letting us go right now, you can actually see where power lines are down. Much farther in the distance, there's a tree on it, but there's also, as you can see, a trampoline wrapped around it. So this is a situation that crews are trying to deal with right now. We want to go ahead and show you some video of a neighborhood right near there. We were able to get our camera in there last last night. Weren't able to get a live signal in there, but serious damage to these houses, unlike anything I've ever seen. I had to tell you, when I walked into that neighborhood, I was taken aback at the level of destruction in that neighborhood. We know 7 people were injured. That's what the city of Salina's mayor is telling us. Those are people that went to the hospital. I spoke with a person in this neighborhood earlier this morning, in the wee hours of this morning, who described what happened.
I just heard things crashing. I was a little surprised. I was waiting to hear the train, but no train came.
But let's hear that it's a train. So when you went upstairs, what were you?
Biggest problem I had is I couldn't get to my basement door open. So I had the door shut, so I had to take a screwdriver and take the handle off and finally push it open and get up there and everything. And we could hear water running in. We could feel the air when we got up there and everything. Blew out every window in the house.
And back out here live, there were a number of people that were trapped as all this happened, but crews have been going door to door throughout the morning hours doing search and rescue, trying to make sure they've accounted for everyone. And the mayor telling us he plans to hold a news conference at some point this morning. We will continue to monitor the situation here in Salina and let you know any new developments as they move into the cleanup efforts here this morning. Live in Salina, Sean Cudahy, News Center 7.
All right, stay safe out there, Sean. Thank you.
All right, and I just heard again from Trotwood Mayor Mary McDonald, and she says that Corinthian Baptist Church, which I believe is located just off of 35 there on James H. McGee Boulevard, is where the high school shelter is being moved to. So all the folks who are in the high school are going to be moved to Corinthian Baptist Church, which is technically Dayton, but still very close to Trotwood. Now we want to continue our Team 7 weather coverage with Kayla Curvell, who is in the Brookville area. And Kayla, you've been showing us just devastating damage from the high school front and back to homes that we called, it looked like a dollhouse. And now where are you?
Now I'm behind that home that looked like a dollhouse, where I'm seeing even more damage. Take a look behind me here. You can see where the garage door was pushed in. Now, I was told there was a 90-year-old woman living in this home. She was able to get down to the basement, and her front windows are completely shattered, so they did have to go in and rescue her. Now, I just want to point out, and the reason why we started over here was this metal roof here. I'll show you where that belongs in just a moment, but if you take a look just out here into the yard, you can see just trees are down, homes across the way damaged. Pieces of that red barn over there are sitting in this front yard that I'm in right now. So you can see just how it tore up through this area. Now I want to show you where that metal roof I was just showing you, I want to show you where that came from. So as we turn the camera around, we're going to go across the street. This over here was a barn. As I trip over a power line, a lot of power lines down in this area. Thankfully, they have turned off. They have killed all those power lines, but they're still just kind of laying all over the road, in the grass, in driveways. Now, take a look. This was a barn here. They said they had just built it, and it is completely smashed. There were also 2 cars over there. They're now underneath a tarp, and I heard Kirsty saying that something that they'll look at whenever they look at all of this damage is how some areas are demolished, like this barn. Then other areas, like the home sitting right next to it, look almost untouched. Now, there was a little bit of damage. There was a power pole that went down right in the front yard there. Thankfully, that's all been killed, so it's not dangerous at this point, but it was earlier this morning. The woman who lives here said she has to walk down through her yard and then in through the back door because it's the only way she can get into her house now. But compared to the barn, the home at least still left standing. Now, a lot of the people I spoke to here said as soon as they got those warnings, those tornado warnings, they went into their basement. There's no doubt that that saved a lot of lives out here. Just looking at the damage, it's devastating throughout the whole Brookville area, especially around the high school. There are just pieces of roofing and wood, trees down everywhere. I did speak with the police. They said they know of at least 3 injuries, 1 person taken to the hospital here. We were trying to get into the area behind the high school. However, they did say it was just too dangerous for us to be back there, and they were still rescuing people from homes that were trapped in their basements. A lot of the homes behind the high school in the terrace park area have been leveled, so just a lot of widespread damage. They said they don't have any power, obviously, and no water either here in this area. So they were looking at it just saying, how are we even going to clean this up? And I think that's a lot of people's questions right now are, where do you even begin to start cleaning this up? We're going to be out here throughout the morning talking with the people who are just kind of observing all of this for the first time in the daylight, and we'll get back to you in just a couple of minutes. Reporting live, Kayla Cravel, News Center 7.
Kayla, thank you. And you know, it's that human element. Now that daylight is here and people are able to assess the damage around their homes, it has to take a toll mentally, which is why when we spoke with the Red Cross representative earlier this morning live on air, she talked about how they have counselors at these shelters, mental health counselors, just to kind of walk you through the next steps and to kind of allow people to talk and really express their concerns and their feelings and their heartbreak over losing, in some cases, everything.
Yeah, you know, we've been on air now for nearly 10 hours covering these storms. It started last night right about 9 o'clock, and now we're approaching 7 o'clock. We do want to mention that in about 15 to 20 minutes, the city of Dayton will have a citywide update from City Hall. We will be there. We will cover that and have it live right here on News Center 7 coming up at 7. Again, we will also be streaming that live on our WHIO Facebook page. Not only is that a great resource, you can watch this broadcast streaming live there as we speak, but also our WHIO weather app, our WHIO news app, all great tools to have in moments like yesterday and this morning. Also, if you have to leave in the next few minutes because you're getting ready to go to work, when it comes to the roads being blocked, AM 1290 and News 95.7 WHIO, they are a great resource to have as you begin to hit the road this morning.
And quite honestly, unless you are essential personnel, I would call your workplace first. Find out if you have to come to work today, because so many roads are blocked right now. So many wires are down. It's just so dangerous to leave wherever you are if you are safe at this point. And I think now is a good time for us to put that list of shelters up that the Red Cross spoke about earlier today on air. There is a list of shelters around the Miami Valley that are operational. So if you can get there, you can find some water there. You can find a safe place there. Yeah. You can find some folks to talk to and anything else that you may need. They are staffing it with food as well, and a place to lay your head if you just need to kind of lay down. Those include the Ridge Church in Brookville, the Morton Middle School in Vandalia, the First Baptist Church of Kettering, Ohio. Trotwood residents are being bused on school buses to Corinthian Baptist Church. They're on James H. McGee Boulevard. Hoffman Methodist in Miami County, and Coldwater Eagles Lodge in Coldwater in the Salina area, all open right now for shelter.
And for the past several hours, we've had Storm Center 7 meteorologist Dante Jones and Kirsty Zontini tracking the very latest. We have seen major damage in very densely populated areas, and the pictures continue to come in.
Yeah, they do. I was just looking at some of our social media pages to see some of the pictures that I could find that we hadn't shown you before. And take a look behind us here. This is one of a power pole. It looks like it just snapped that. And I don't know if we can take that full screen. There we go. Yeah. Look at that power pole that was just snapped in half, and now that's on the ground. That's indicative of a strong tornado right there. I'm looking for signs of seeing how I could judge this, how the National Weather Service might look at this. That'll give us any sense of how strong these tornadoes were that moved through the Miami Valley. So certainly see that one there. Take a look at this one here. Right. The house, the top portion of the house, just really the side, just been sheared and caved in a little bit. This is in Butler Township, by the way, in Cricket Lane. This is from Tim Severance. So if you know where that is in Butler Township, Cricket Lane, you have a sense of what's going on there. And then we'll take a look at other pictures here. Just, this one, by the way, was from Joshua Engel, and this was on Auburndale Avenue in Dayton. So if you know where that is, that neighborhood, that's where some of that damage was with that light pole there. That Brenda Wilborn sending us this one from North Dixie. Looks like, what is that, maybe a mobile home that's been flipped on its side, maybe two of them or so.
Yeah, it looks like there's maybe three in a row here, and then at least some sustained damage there.
Yeah, so mobile homes being flipped on their side, that's indicative of an EF1 right there. So just kind of looking at some of these and seeing what we can ascertain as far as the damage. And we were showing you here the scale, EF0, light damage, moderate damage for EF1, and then considerable damage, which we've also seen in some of these instances, could be EF2. So we're looking at that scale. You know, Kirsty, if I had to put a number to some of these, I would say EF1, EF2 tornadoes across the Miami Valley here this evening, in all honesty. And again, don't take that to the bank. I mean, the National Weather Service is going to go out and do what they do. They look at these, you know, a lot more than I do. But, you know, if we just, from the pictures and videos that we had to look at, these are the stronger type tornadoes. And I wouldn't be surprised, Kirsty, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an EF3 in all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, really looking at the Sky 7 drone video that we've been showing this morning, that was a line of, you know, of businesses, Family Dollar, a Rite Aid, and it was even hard to tell what business it was.
Right.
So that's when you're starting to see severe damage, and just a lot of the cities, officials have been warning their communities of some severe damage as well. So again, the National Weather Service, they will be out, they will be looking at the type of building, the type of damage, and that they have a specific scale that they go by. There's criteria that needs to be hit, and that's how they end up with these. But no, I think easily we're going to end up seeing some of the 2, 3 scale for us, especially just looking at the radar and the velocity, the very defined couplet that was well defined for miles, for a very long time. So what was that like, Dante? I mean, you are new to the Miami Valley, but this is not our typical style of severe weather.
It is not, even in the wintertime. You know, when I first came, and you all educated me. Again, for those of you who may not know who I am, I'm from Northeast Ohio, from the Cleveland-Akron area, and we get a lot of lake effect snow. And so I didn't realize that, you know, the Miami Valley didn't really deal with lake effect snow, more smaller snowfall totals, 2, 3 inches maybe here and there. And so this past season, you all very well know, we had 2 or 3 big storms that gave us really large inches of snow. And so that well versed me into the winter here. And then here we are in severe weather season, and this is well above normal for tornadoes. Remember, we were just counting last week.
Yeah, we were easily at 14
for the state.
And I think in Northeast Ohio, they may have had, I think that there has been another confirmed tornado, at least one, over the weekend, because we've had more severe weather across the state. And then on average, we see 19 for a whole year. So we are going well above that.
We are certainly getting there.
This is the past radar image. I don't want to frighten anyone. This is not live. This is from last night. But it shows that well-defined area of rotation that we as meteorologists look for when we use velocity. And you could see that we passed right over 75 north of Dayton. So we had reports in a lot of storm damage reports in Trotwood, as well as Brookville, Harrison Township. So that's just one image there for you to take a look at when it comes to that very, very strong storm. And the scale again here, we typically fall between the EF0s to 2, but we may go 2 to 4, and so I would not be surprised if when they're done surveying, just looking at some of the daylight hours of the homes that are well constructed, that their roofs are completely thrown, or the businesses that are totally destroyed. Brookville, the school. I mean, that's hard to deny that the damage at that school is not severe. So, you know, the National Weather Service, we give them hats off. They did such a wonderful job keeping people safe last night. You and McCall as well, tracking everything. The first warning warning came in around 9 o'clock. That was right across the Ohio-Indiana border, right over near Wayne, Indiana. And then the last one really saw the last reports of a funnel cloud in Jamestown.
About 12:30 in the morning or so.
Yeah, 12:30. About 1 a.m. was probably when all the tornadic activity had moved out of the Miami Valley. That was a long stretch there where we just had tornado warning after warning after warning, because we just saw the thunderstorms strengthen. They produced large hail as well. So, you know, that's another report there that is something that I don't want to just shy from. People are going to wake up to hail damage, I think.
And in all honesty, Kirsty, this really started off during our 90 minutes of news. About 5:15 or so, we ended up getting our first severe thunderstorm warning. And that went on for about a half an hour or so. And so we watched that. And, you know, I finished my shift, you know, did the 5:30, went home 6 o'clock, you know, unwound for the day, and, you know, just hoping that this severe threat would come and go. You know, maybe a couple of tornado warnings, EF0s, quick spin ups, no big whoop, we're all good. But no, you know, around 11 o'clock, you know, 10:30 or so, I'm tuning in and I'm like, you know, McCall needs some help in there. These storms are getting a little too much out of hand. And it becomes all hands on deck because these storms really fire it off. And that's what happens around a warm front. We got a warm front, and there's shear in the atmosphere where different levels of the atmosphere, you got winds going in different directions and different speeds. That helps storms to spin. And when the storms take in this air, we call it an updraft. When the storms suck in this air, it has the tendency to spin and has the tendency to rotate, and that really helps with tornado development there. And then when we have, you know, other indicators in the atmosphere, you have a lot of heavy rain as well as some hail and a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning as well. So you get these really strong thunderstorms that produce really gusty winds and tornadoes. And those are long-lived thunderstorms, too, especially when they're supercell thunderstorms. They live for a long time and do a lot of damage. And that's what we've been seeing across the Miami Valley this evening, and that's why it lasted for so long, because these storms lasted a long time, and they trained at one point in time.
Yes, that's why we had the flash flood warnings.
They moved over the same area, they moved very slowly, and the already saturated ground, it just didn't do anybody any favors. So this has been a very long evening.
Morning, we're well into 7 a.m. almost, Dante.
Exactly, so you came in early yourself, going to stick around through the new news as well, so we're all pulling long shifts here. But a lot of folks who have to clean up going to be pulling long shifts cleaning up, unfortunately.
And we appreciate you. That is our job, to work to keep folks safe, and you have done a yeoman's job doing that, so we really appreciate that. We want to get to News Center 7's Gabrielle Enright. She is in Beaver Creek, and she's been showing us a lot of damage in that area. Gabrielle.
Letitia, we've moved again. We are now here off of Fairfield, and take a look at this. This is a landscaping dumpster and a trailer, and this they've just been toppled, and that's just the beginning of the damage here at this plat. Again, this is off of North Fairfield Road, not far from where I was, maybe about 5 miles or so from where I was last time I was live, but you can just see the scope of the damage. In addition, I mean, just think of the force it takes to tip something like that over, let alone put it on its top. Now, I want to walk you across the street here. I'm looking both ways because a lot of people are coming out. This is NTP, or an automotive, like, basically store, and the wall's just gone. It's caved in. And we drove by there thinking, well, maybe this is just an open area. Maybe this is like a garden center. No, this is where it looks like they used to work on the vehicles. You can see the walls are gone. There's debris on the inside, and the roof is gone. So that's just a little bit of the damage that we're seeing. I mean, there are roofs gone everywhere. You saw just a few minutes ago, we were over at a housing complex, and there were people telling me that they stayed in their bathtub, and that is what saved them. But looking at the damage here, this is just one of the many buildings in this plat that was damaged early this morning when that severe weather rolled through. And this is something that I know that a lot of people around here have never seen before because they are out here taking pictures of it, as am I. So I've seen a lot of this type of situations before, covering hurricanes and also traveling with Ohio Task Force 1 and talking with people. I see it in every community, including ours. Neighbors are helping neighbors. I've been talking about that since I think the first time I was live with you this morning, starting with the story of a man who has health problems and his neighbor was cutting down the tree limbs that were blocking his driveway just in case he needed the help. But again, you're looking now that it's daylight and you can see just the amount of damage. We're going to move around a little bit in this plat and show you some more damage here coming up in just a few minutes. And I've been constantly updating my Twitter and also my Facebook accounts with this new information I've been showing you live here, just in case you want to let everyone else know. Reporting live, Gabrielle Enright, News Center 7.
Gabrielle, thank you. We appreciate that report. We've got a lot going on this morning. This is another look at a picture that was sent in to us.
Yeah, River's Edge Apartments there in Riverside. And again, you're talking about dozens of families just in this one location. As you can see there, that apparently there used to be a roof on this apartment complex. Also, all of those balconies destroyed. Hopefully no one hurt here, but it's hard to imagine that something like this happens and no one has a minor injury at least. So again, just to put this in perspective, we have seen dozens of photos just like this of both homes and businesses as well. We also want to mention, if you're just waking up and you're getting your children ready for school, remember, mini school's still in session, not quite to the summer yet. They are scrolling, closings and delays are scrolling at the bottom of your screen. A couple of the big ones, Dayton, Vandalia, and Brookville, all closed today. Fairborn right now on a 2-hour delay, but again, we will continue scrolling those at the bottom of your screen. And as we see here, we're just jumping from location to location to location, even in the air here off North Dixie, where this was a strip mall. Right? I mean, had you not known this was a strip mall, it looks like a site of a pile of debris, but these were businesses that just, you know, yesterday evening were open for business. We're talking about a Family Dollar, you know, massive stores there, just completely destroyed, debris scattered across the parking lot. We've spoken with just about everyone we could think of during our Team 7 weather coverage this morning, from the Montgomery County Sheriff to mayors of certain cities to local sergeants of police departments. We've spoken to Vectron about gas outages. We've spoken with DP&L about electric outages. We've even spoken about water outages throughout Montgomery County, and asking people to conserve water because the Dayton Montgomery County pump stations lost their power, so now they're having trouble providing water to people. Kayla Curvell is in Brookville. We have Sean Cudahy. He's been there all night, like Dante, pulling a very, very long shift to keep us updated there in Mercer County in Salina, where they had several people injured and reportedly taken to the hospital. Minor injuries at that. And, of course, Gabrielle Enright, we just saw her in Beaver Creek. And our coverage will continue, and this is why. Take a look at this outage map. More than 40,000 without power right now in Montgomery County. This continues, folks. This is not over. The storms have moved on, but the problems are still right here in our backyard and will be for weeks now. We have more than 9,300 without power in Greene County, more than 2,700 without power in Miami County, a few hundred there in Darke County, and then as you head north, nearly 2,000 in Mercer County. We are now just about 2 or 3 minutes away of what should be a live update from the city of Dayton at City Hall on what the city is doing with all of this damage, how they're coordinating with county and state resources to hopefully clean up this mess as quickly as possible, what people can do if they need help. We have shelters. We've spoken with Red Cross, and we've given those locations several times. We'll continue to do so throughout the morning if you stay with us right here on News Center 7.
Some of the most extensive damage this morning that we've been showing you has been in the Brookville area, and that's where News Center 7's Kayla Curvell is with an update. Kayla.
Just been walking through near the area where the high school is. I just want to show you this house that I came up upon. The roof is torn off. We're going to try and get a little bit closer here. We're really just seeing this for the first time. It looks like here on the ground there was a gazebo. That's torn off. most of it destroyed. And then you can see where the roof, it almost looks like it was half of it blew off, half of it still intact. But we haven't been able to get close enough to really see the inside there. You can see the truck that's here, the windows blown out of that. This pine tree in front of that, I want to walk over here and show you the base of that pine tree because it's massive. It just gives you a real idea of just how strong this was coming through here. Look at that, ripped right out of the ground. I mean, the damage here is just absolutely devastating for these people. A lot of people needed to be rescued, people trapped in basements. Even the last hour that we were trying to get back behind through Terrace Park, police asked us not to go back there because they were still rescuing people from basements. I've talked with some people here. They've said that power is out. They had to turn off all the power lines because a lot of the power lines are on the ground right now. Water is shut off in this area. I mean, just the devastation is widespread throughout this area. The high school doesn't have a roof in the back anymore. In fact, a lot of these homes here don't have a roof. I want to go across the street here and show you this home. There is some damage to this home. There is some shingles missing on the roof, but right next to it, the barn that they had just built, that was leveled, and there's also a camper there. There's wood sticking out of the top of the camper. 2 vehicles damaged here. 3 people were injured here in Brookville. 1 person taken to the hospital. They did say they had minor injuries, and you know, I was just talking, I know earlier we showed you that auto body shop. I was just talking with the owner of it. People really just coming out and looking at the damage here, and it's just unbelievable. It's almost like you don't think it's going to happen to you, and then you look out and you see all of this damage here. I mean, there's just trees. I don't even know where half of these trees came from, where a lot of this debris came from. Maybe hundreds of yards away. I mean, it's just a lot of damage, and the people that we've been speaking to here saying that they just don't even know where to start when it comes to cleaning up. I mean, you can just take a look out here, and it's overwhelming just to even look at. I can't even imagine having to deal with it, too. So we're going to remain out here, keep you.
All right, well, that's live TV. We do apologize for those audio issues, but we'll get back with Kayla as soon as we can. In the meantime, we want to give a list of Red Cross shelters that are currently open for you around the Miami Valley. They include the Ridge Church in Brookville, Ohio, an area very hard hit overnight. Morton Middle School in Vandalia is now open to residents who need shelter. First Baptist Church of Kettering is open. Folks are being shuttled from the Trotwood High School to Corinthian Baptist Church on James H. McGee Boulevard, just in Dayton, off of 35. Hoffman Methodist Church in Miami County is now open if you need help. And Coldwater Eagles Lodge in the Salina area there in Coldwater is also now open, as well as the Beaver Creek Christian Church located on Shakertown Road in Beaver Creek. These are all Red Cross shelters that have opened. We suspect that more will open throughout the day as the damage is being assessed.
And speaking of planning your day, we do want to mention that closures and delays for schools, scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Dayton, Vandalia, Brookville already closed for the day. Fairborn now on a 2-hour delay. There's much more, and again, they'll continue scrolling at the bottom of your screen. I also want to mention that we did say for the last about an hour that at 7 o'clock we were going to have a live press conference with an update at City Hall in downtown Dayton. I understand it's now a few minutes past. I can promise you, Letitia and I are monitoring the situation. We have a live feed up right now that we can see here in our studio. As soon as officials begin to speak, we will take that live. We'll have it for you right here on News Center 7. We will also stream that live on our WHIO Facebook page.
And we're just getting an update. Trotwood School obviously is closed this morning. A lot of areas severely damaged. There are some schools that are still in session operating on delays. Those are scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now.
Here's a vantage point you're only going to get right here on News Center 7, which is our Sky 17. We have multiple drone operators here at Channel 7, and they're very good at what they do. And my goodness, take a look at the devastation. We are talking about dozens and dozens of homes. We're talking about entire communities that this morning, Gabrielle, for example, in Beaver Creek, saw an entire community under mandatory evacuation, and we are now seeing Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley stepping to the podium at City Hall. We want to take that live so you can listen in.
And it is really early for Corey Froelich right now.
It is really early.
After a holiday.
He had to work on a Saturday, too.
Oh, yeah, you see? Just keep it coming here in Dayton, Ohio. Are you ready? Okay. Good morning. Last night, Dayton was hit by a series of devastating tornadoes. We do not yet know the full extent of the damage, as crews are still working to reach affected areas. But we do know that the damage was significant and that many citizens and folks are still without basic services. I've already heard many stories of neighbors checking on neighbors and helping out where necessary. Please continue to look out for your neighbors, particularly anyone elderly or vulnerable, as crews assess this damage. Now, our community has been tested before, and we have always risen above it. I have no doubt that we will do so again today and in the coming week. Thank you to all the city employees and our first responders who have been working around the clock to make sure that everyone is safe. Now I'm going to turn it over to the city manager, Shelley Dickstein, and then Fire Chief Payne.
Good morning. I want to let you know what we've done so far since the wee hours of the morning. We have upstaffed both fire and police personnel to respond to increased call volumes. We have crews called in who are currently assessing the extent of the storm damage and performing emergency clearance of debris. And we have had citizens evacuated to Red Cross shelters. In addition to the emergency responses related to the storm, the power outage has impacted both water plants and our pump stations. So while the water plants have backup generators, the pump stations, because of the enormous power demand, do not have backup generators. We have called some of our vendors that we have emergency relationships with, and we have 3 1,500 kilowatt generators and 5 additional generators ranging from 300 to 500 kilowatt coming to the city, and they will be up and running by midday. However, without the power to pump water, we will be destabilizing as a water system, which means that we will have to issue a system-wide boil advisory. And I want to make sure so that it is clear when I talk about a system-wide boil advisory, that is all of the city of Dayton and areas in Montgomery County served by Dayton Water. There are jurisdictions that will not be impacted by this boil advisory, and I want to make sure that I tell you who those systems are. That's Oakwood, Huber Heights, Vandalia, Englewood, Miamisburg, Union, and West Carrollton. Those communities are not impacted by the system-wide boil advisory that the city of Dayton and Montgomery County are putting into effect. Later this morning, shortly, we will have our boil advisory map up, and we will be sending out through social media and to the media the links for people to access that. I want to thank our emergency responders for their expeditious response and reiterate that since this occurred at nightfall, we are just now able to get eyes on the scenes, get access to some of the areas, and we will work through as quickly as possible. We ask for citizens' patience as we work to assess and then ultimately work to clear. At this point, I will turn it over to Chief Payne, followed by Chief Beal, to talk about the emergency response.
Good morning. So last night, about 11:30, series of tornadoes struck the Dayton area. However, we have yet to find one fatality, and we have had 3 minor injuries. I find that pretty miraculous. And I attribute much of that to the early notification to the public, and then the public heeding those warnings and getting shelter. Now, much of the work is yet to be done. As the city manager spoke to, a lot of the work is just now going to start in daylight. We've had crews doing search and rescue all night. We've actually had to pull people out of buildings, yet with just minor injuries. Now we're going to have to do secondary searches, more thorough searches through the communities. Dayton will be out in their neighborhoods. The communities surrounding Dayton will be in their neighborhoods. They were impacted as well. To help us with this search and rescue efforts will be Ohio Task Force 1, which is activated with a 45-person Type 3 task force, Region 3 strike team, which is Ohio Region 3's urban search and rescue team, Region 4 strike team, which is coming from the Columbus area, and the Region 6 strike team, which is coming from the Cincinnati area. Those searches will be coordinated so where all communities are searched with a 90%, with a goal of a 90% confidence of having all structures searched and rendered safe and having the occupants evacuated. To now, as I said, we have had 3 injuries. They were all minor. And we had 41 fire responses since 11:30 last night. I'd like to reiterate for the public to be patient. There's a lot of responses that we're going to be responding to that we have not been able to get to yet. But we will be getting there, and we're going to help the public out as fast as we can when we can. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll give you a little bit of an update on the police response. There are approximately 244 police calls for service since 11:15 p.m. till 6 a.m. this morning related to this weather emergency. Some were fire assist calls. We had calls of traffic lights down and traffic control not working, wires down, and trees blocking the roadway. We called in 23 off-duty crews to augment the forces that were already present. 29 crews remained on duty after their normal shifts. There are approximately 72 crews on duty to handle and respond to calls for service. Our responsibility is to assist with the evacuation, to address to the degree possible the problems related to traffic control, provide patrol in the areas without power, and also assist fire and public works. The areas were damaged included Riverside Drive and Siebenthaler. Tree damage. We had Foxton Court at Chute Mill Road, significant damage. DeWeese neighborhood had trees down and some damage to houses. Stanley and Troy, damage to buildings and cars. Kelly Avenue had significant damage to an apartment building on the street. Gateway Drive, the Action Sports Complex, had roof damage. It's quite visible even from Route 4. And the Springfield Drive with damage to buildings and vehicles. So pretty devastating storm, as you've already heard. And unfortunately, we can say, the best we know at this time, just very, very few minor injuries, but the work is still before us.
Questions for anyone?
Do we know how many people are without power at this point?
I think that's a question for Dayton Power and Light.
In regards to transportation, we know RTA is, what if with RTA they're doing things, what about like the airport and stuff, what flights or any?
The airport has had no damage or impact to the storm. RTA has been particularly helpful with helping with the evacuations, helping get people from their homes to the emergency shelters.
How long do you expect the boil advisory to last?
I do not know at this point. We have to get the generators up and running and be able to see to what extent we can repressurize the system. I know that as similar as the last time, we've lost the high pressure system already as far as depressurization, but I'm not sure yet.
After the last disruption, I guess the city quoted at the end kind of that the water was safe, safe the entire time. Is that possible in this, or did it be really pure contamination?
We always, as a precaution, do the boil advisory, and I don't speculate as to whether or not the water is safe or not safe. I think it's just important that people follow the boil advisory.
Is federal or state aid an option you're pursuing at this time, and what is that process like, if so?
At this time, the state aid that we're receiving is Ohio Task Force 1. Although they're a federal FEMA team, they are primarily a state of Ohio resource first. So that team has been activated with the 45 personnel. In addition to that, they're going to have some live find as well as human remains dogs that are going to come help with the search and rescue.
Any idea staffing-wise how many City of Dayton employees will be working on kind of response today?
I don't think there's a real number, but it's safe to say that we have, aside from first responder teams that have been upstaffed, we've also doing all kinds of cross-staffing where we have the ability, the equipment operators and the equipment, to augment the emergency clearance of the roadways and public spaces. We obviously will be doing that as well.
Are there any early indications of the number of structures or homes damaged versus destroyed?
We don't have any information at this time.
You didn't say several dozen?
We're still assessing.
Just the sun just came.
Are there still safety concerns at this point, like ongoing, not just like cleanup?
Absolutely. This is a heightened sense of precaution that we're going to have, because even though the sun's coming up and people are getting out, we're going to have gas leaks. We've had gas leaks all night long. We're going to continue to have gas leaks. Once things seem to be stabilized, and they try to start their appliances back up, you have some hazards there. So it's going to be hazardous. You got some structural integrity issues. If the building was not knocked down during the tornado, there's always a risk that there's going to be some structural instability to where it's going to be hazardous for people to stay in it. So yes, those assessments are going to continue, and that's going to be part of what these urban search and rescue teams coming in addition to looking for people that are going to be doing assessments in the neighborhoods.
When's the last time you all have had a storm or tornado of this magnitude here in Dayton?
The last large storm we had was in 2008. It was the hurricane, right? Hurricane Ike, where part of the city was out without power for nearly a week. And that was designated an emergency by the federal government as well. The difference on this one to, obviously, the damage on Hurricane Ike was really citywide. But this one also, we were able to keep the power for the water during that, so that was a real help. This issue with not having power in the water plants is of significant concern for us.
What's the best thing an everyday citizen can do to help out and sort of keep moving forward, help the city officials, utilities, fire, police, whatever, sort of keep moving forward and get this cleaned up?
So we ask everyone to check on their neighbors and check on folks that maybe are homebound, make sure that they're okay. We also ask people to conserve water during this time as we work diligently to get the water plants back up.
Chief Beal and to a lesser extent Chief Payne, you guys had a pretty big weekend with the events on Saturday. How are you guys, I guess, maintaining or holding up with this, going from a huge police effort on over the weekend to a disaster response on Tuesday?
Well, I'd say this is what we signed up for, quite honestly. So sleep becomes a little bit problematic for folks at times. I can attest to that personally. But when we're needed, we show up. And so it's exactly what we're doing. So we certainly hope to expedite delivery of necessary services, and then when time allows, be able people to to get off duty and get some rest. But we're prepared, and we're out there delivering service right now.
Can you talk about that preparation? You know, does the city of Dayton have everything it needs to respond to something of this magnitude?
Yeah, there is always contingency plans that should anything that we face exceed the ability of our resources to respond. We have mutual aid and other agreements, other state and even federal assets that can be deployed. So, you know, there is a structure well in place to address situations like this.
What was the hardest hit part of Dayton?
I don't know, Jeff, do you know? I mean, you've heard the ones I read off, so I don't know how to evaluate one versus
the hardest hit at this point, what we know right now, is probably Old North Dayton. Probably in the vicinity of Troy and Stanley.
I just came from Harrison Township, and I know it's not your jurisdiction, but there's like, my parents' shops are along the Dixie Strip, and they've got water just shooting out their buildings. You know, what do people in those areas, as someone in law enforcement, again, I know it's not your jurisdiction, but what do people, seeing those water and gas leaks, what should they do?
For water and gas leaks, right now we actually have that happening. It's happened in Dayton. We have the water department respond to shut off the water at the curb box. We have fire crews to investigate to actually make sure there isn't a fire, which caused that sprinkler system water supply to actually charge the lines. And so that's how we're handling those things.
But if that's happening, you should leave the area. So, you know, safety is first. If that's happening, leave the area, call 911, and responders will move forward.
I was going to ask, everything's obviously prioritized, but people, obviously want to know that you're there to help whatever needs may come. From the emotional side of, the work that's going to be ongoing for weeks to come, how do you kind of carry out that work?
Well, I think this is, like Chief Beal said, I think so eloquently, this is what we've been trained to do. And, this is a tough time for our community, and we recognize that. But I've never been let down by the citizens of Dayton. And the citizens of Dayton are people that check on each other, have really strong community ties, that, in times of need, they'll help someone that they don't even know, and will help across the community and region. And I really expect no different during this time. Obviously, there's a lot of prayer going on in the city as well, and we appreciate that. But the best thing people can do is just check on their neighbors and make sure you're safe.
Some have asked about the shelters, of how long they'll be out there, if they should expect to have even more pop up. Like you said, a lot of people in Dayton really helping. What would be your words to them about shelter and all that good stuff?
Yeah, we'll assess that as we go on. As we said, the sun's coming up this morning. We're appreciative of the Red Cross. I even heard Corinthian Baptist Church open their doors, another example of just how the community comes together. So, that will be assessed as we continue on. Okay, I know you guys have lots to do today, so if you don't have any other questions, be safe out there. Don't do anything stupid, and have a good day.
All right, you've just been listening to a news conference at City Hall in Dayton. You heard from Mayor Nan Whaley, City Manager Shelley Dickstein, Fire Chief Jeff Payne, and Police Chief Richard Beal talking about where they are right now in assessing and taking care of what they can right now. We do know that there are several generators on the way to the city of Dayton. There is a system-wide boil advisory right now, not just for Dayton water, but also those areas that are served by Dayton water. Now, some of the areas they listed that are not included in that system-wide boil advisory include Oakwood, Huber Heights, Inglewood, Vandalia, Union, and West Carrollton, just to name a few.
And we're going to get back to our Team 7 weather coverage. It continues as emergency personnel keep working. So do we. We want to get to Sean Cudahy. He's live now there in Mercer County and Salina. And Sean, I know you've been there for several hours now. The city of Dayton just gave us an update. Do you have an update for us there in Mercer County?
Yeah, Letitia and Adam, the good news here, start with some good news, is that 75% of the power is back on here in Salina from what we'd had overnight, although some areas still dealing with those outages. But a ton of cleaning up to go this morning as we take a look down past where police are stopping us from going any further because of safety concerns. You can see where crews are really trying to get to work on what is a major tree that fell over. What you can't see because these trucks are blocking is there's also a trampoline wrapped around these power lines right in the road there. Now, do we have some video from overnight? I want to show you. We were able to bring our camera back and actually get a look at some of the destruction in a nearby neighborhood. Just unbelievable amounts of damage to this neighborhood. I mean, houses that are destroyed, houses that, if not destroyed, sustained substantial damage. And we also saw homes, best case scenario, maybe they just had a whole bunch of debris in their yard, just debris all over the place. This is what people are dealing with, 7 injuries and a lot of cleaning up here in Salina.
If you'll recall back in 2017, when on a Sunday afternoon when the tornado hit, we could assess that damage fairly quickly right up front. Unfortunately, this didn't hit until late in the evening. It was already dark. It makes it very difficult. So that, and with the rain, at least it's not cold, but it is one that we can't assess all the damage. One of my councilmen, their house got hit back in here last night, this evening. So I know that we've been in contact with a number of folks inside that are okay. They're trying to clean up. I was very pleased to find out how many people actually immediately went to a basement, an area of safety. Some did not, those that got injured, but they were doing some search and rescue on some of the houses where they were able to get those out.
And that was Salina Mayor Jeff Hazel talking about some of the challenges his crews faced as they tried to deal with this situation overnight in the darkness. He was really looking towards daybreak when you get this daylight out here, and we've been talking about this all morning long. These crews able to get out and truly see what this damage is. It can be horrifying to see, but it does give them a better idea of what exactly they're dealing with and allows them to begin what is going to be a lengthy process of trying to clean up and rebuild it. And if you heard him talking about a prior tornado, he was talking about the one in 2017, which did happen during the daylight hours. So I was actually on the ground here in November 2017, and these crews were able to get right to work figuring out what needed to be done. Compare that to last night when they were able to get some work done, but you can only do so much when it's so dark outside. That's something people all over the region were dealing with overnight. Live in Salina, Sean Cudahy, News Center 7.
All right, thanks, Sean. Yeah, we're talking about damage, too, up in the Salina. There was damage and all over the Miami Valley, and Dayton and points south as well. We got some pictures here that we want to show you of some of the damage. Thank you for sending these in, by the way. You can continue to send these into our social media pages now that daylight is upon us and you get out and take a look at that.
Yeah, so look at that building. Sustained major damage there. This is still, I mean, I know we've shown this before, Dante, but I mean, it really is just showing you here, lit up by the lightning, that large tornado in the Dayton area. I mean, you can't deny it there. And then another photo, this is, you can see Frito-Lay trucks are actually off in the distance there. And if you zoom in a little closer, all the damage then that's like thrown across the road. So, you know, we want to show you this is the past view of velocity data. And velocity is just a tool that we use when we're tracking severe thunderstorms. We could use it to see straight line wind, but we can also use it for rotation, and we talk about couplets, and that is our terminology that we're using for a radar signature, basically, that's showing that there's rotation or a tornado. So this again, here's that pass through. This is right around 11:11. Then we'll take a look at another one. This is at 11:28. You can see that moved into northern portions of Greene County there, and then again here near Jamestown. This was a little bit later at 11:50, and again still some rotation, or at least another strong storm that had redeveloped near Huber Heights and between Huber Heights and Dayton. So, Dante, you were here last night with McCall Vrydaghs, our chief meteorologist. The first warning was issued about 9 o'clock. That continued on until really 12:30, almost 1 a.m. before that line and that those storms had completely exited Greene County. So what was that like for you in terms of, you know, you're here in the Miami Valley. Not only do we have one area of rotation, but we had multiple at one time.
time?
Oh, well, yeah, you know, it really started about 5:15, Kirsty, this afternoon during our 90 minutes of news when a severe thunderstorm warning was issued. And we knew it would be an active day then. Then I came in around 11 o'clock, and when I came in, Live Doppler 7 had 6 tornado warnings on. And that was just, that's an eye-opener right there.
Yes.
And not only just radar indicated, Kirsty, but these were the real deal in that we were getting damage reports from different areas with these thunderstorms. So we are looking at 6 tornado warnings at 11 o'clock p.m., and most of them are verifying to actually be tornadoes.
Yeah.
And on top of that, rather strong tornadoes as well, not the typical EF0, lower end EF1 that we see here across the Miami Valley. So this was certainly an active night. And we were telling you about this really over the weekend. Even until last week, we hinted that there's severe weather that's possible on Memorial Day. And then later in the afternoon, the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center started to increase and up the ante on the severe threat, taking soundings and measurements of the atmosphere to see the ingredients that was there. And the ingredients that were there will really turn out to be just dangerous and just destructive, in all honesty.
They were. Shear is a huge part when we talk about the ingredients for a thunderstorm. If you don't have shear, you just have lifted stability and moisture, you're just going to get your garden variety pop-up storms. But when we factor in shear, which is either the change in height, or excuse me, the change in speed of the wind with height, or the change of direction of the wind with height, then you could start seeing rotation or an atmosphere that would favor rotating thunderstorms. And that's what we saw. If you were outside yesterday in the afternoon, it was extremely moist, very, very warm for us. We had a warm front that lifted north, area of low pressure moving through. All of that played a big role into why we had not just a few weak storms, but we had very strong storms, and we had what looks like probably long track tornadoes, because some of our drone operators, which our producer, I think we were able to call up this drone video, Dante, we could kind of talk over it. They were able to get some video here, aerial, of this morning to show you the damage that clearly whatever strength of tornado touchdown, I mean, it was on the ground for a while. That was a shopping plaza that it's hard to even tell what stores were in there because of how damaged it is. And then we're going to keep watching this, because I do think eventually it will change to another view of some neighborhoods. And you could clearly see again here that some of the houses are fine, some of the other are not. And you can see crossing over I-75 there, and it's like, well, you know, looks okay right there. But again, and that's very indicative of when you have tornado damage, is the fact that you're going to have clusters of the damage. So some buildings might be just fine, and then others are going to be completely destroyed. Neighborhoods will have, you know, one neighbor, their house looks like nothing happened, and the other house looks completely different. So again, here we go. So it's kind of turning into the neighborhoods right now.
In the storm, it turns south and east, and that is exactly the direction that we're seeing.
And look at that. I mean, having Sky 7 drone is just really able to show that path there, where again, this could have maybe lifted briefly and then started to touch back down. Because look at those homes. Some of them are standing. Some of them you just see what looks like dark soil. Well, that was likely a house that is now sustain major damage.
And Kirsty, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, in all honesty, if the National Weather Service asked, you know, Channel 7, hey, can we look at your drone?
It's helpful.
It's very helpful. And that's one of the things they look at when they go out and they survey the damage, and then they go back to the office and they study the damage and before they put out the rating. And so one of the things they look at, if you watch, for example, sports, and you look at the referees and they go back and they look at some of the plays and they determine if this was a foul or what have you, this is the exact same thing that the National Weather Service will do. They'll be on site and they'll look at it, assess it, and they'll come back to the lab, come back to the office, and they'll look at some of this video as well, and then make a determination there. Just like we're talking and making a determination that EF1, EF2, possibly EF3 tornado here, that's exactly what they're going to do as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they take a look at this, because it's very helpful to look at this from above.
Yeah, and when it comes to the number of tornadoes, we've talked about how we are above average easily. Well, I did just check, and so far I'm pretty sure we are at 15 for the state. Most of them have still occurred in the Miami Valley. Now we're going to add I don't know how many more will come from this. Once again, I don't know if this are going to be deemed long track that stay on the ground and lift, or if these will all be separate tornadoes. We're going to have to wait and hear what the Weather Service says. But easily we're going to get close to 19, and it is not summer yet. We are still in spring. We are still in May. So just put that in perspective. 19 is typical for us. Our severe weather season for a whole year started in February, and we have stayed active now with an abnormally wet spring and an abnormally active severe weather season. If you're heading out the door, I also don't want people to forget this, Dante. We do still have the chance for more storms later.
That's right.
So, you know, if you've been with us all morning, yes, we're going to keep showing you damage and talking about what's going on with power outages. And Adam and Letitia have done an excellent job talking to local officials and you know, getting updates from what they're doing for their cities. But also keep in mind, later this afternoon and evening, we're still expecting some more storms to pop. And we're also still expecting something which I don't think we've had to really worry about, maybe a little bit over this weekend, the heat index.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, as a matter of fact, because there's so many people without power outages. We've now gotten into the latter end of spring and going to enter into meteorological summer here within the next few days. And so it's starting to get hot and muggy. And so without the power, that means no electricity. So we're going to start to see these days here without electricity, and that can become problematic as well for a lot of folks.
Yeah, so Adam and Letitia had mentioned who's going to be without, who's still without power, and then how the city of Dayton had, you know, some are going to be without water. Well, we're talking about a heat index later this afternoon that will get up to 90. So please, please be careful. Check on your elderly neighbors this afternoon.
Definitely.
Now, I understand that the National Weather Service is going to send teams of people out to survey the damage, and they're not just in our area. It's broad.
It's very,
How soon can we expect to know? I mean, is that like a day turn, or do we not know? Usually it's pretty quick.
It usually is. Their wording, when they can communicate with all of us meteorologists across the state, asked that we give them like a little bit of time, because this is going to be not only a large swath here where we had, I mentioned those first tornado reports were in southern Miami County, Montgomery, into Greene, all the way through Greene. Jamestown also had that funnel cloud report, so they've got to look at all of that. And then those storms were still tornadic when they were moving through south central Ohio as well. So they have more than just the Miami Valley that they're responsible for. They definitely called out Salina and Dayton as two of the cities that they would be starting their damage from. But just, they said give them time. Usually they can turn this in a day if they have maybe one or two areas of damage. But this is a lot today for them to get through.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. We'll check back with you momentarily.
We want to get now on to our Team 7 weather coverage. Gabrielle Enright joins us live from Beaver Creek from yet another scene. Gabrielle, we've seen you all over Beaver Creek this morning, from businesses to homes to mandatory evacuations, and yet another scene behind you this morning.
Well, and that's right. I am here off of North Fairfield Road, and I'll show you more about that in a minute. But first, for people that are from around here, this is the old Wallabies, and you can see just how much damage was done here to this location. A lot of insulation, a lot of the structure of the wall, and the gate itself in certain places just bent. You can just see the metal was tossed around and just destroyed in some places and thrown around and piercing other places. The other thing I can show you is, as you just walk along the fence here and then you start looking behind me, it wasn't just this old building that was hit. You can see Gemini Air Care, or Eye Care, and then Jet's Pizza. This complex here, you can see what's Mike's Car Wash is on the other side. That is the area where I am, just to give you some reference. And this is the backside of where I was just a little bit ago. You can just see the damage that was done to the businesses. Like you said, we've showed you homes, we've showed you businesses, we've showed you all kinds of things. Now, North Fairfield Road, that was one of the first areas that I went to last night. And the one thing that I can tell you about that is that they blocked it off. And I was trying to figure out why, but it was so dark. Now you can see, this is North Fairfield Road. This is the damage that they're working to clean up. And this is a major artery in Beaver Creek. And that is why they are working so hard to get it back open. But the power poles, they are on the side. They are tilted. The lines are going everywhere. And even in the distance here, those two vans, that's Vectran. They're just checking some of those gas lines, and that's one of the problems that we were dealing with in other parts of neighborhoods. So as D'Angelo looks at some of the trees, metal just wrapped around it, again, looking at some of the tree tops that have been snapped off, the wires, there's all kinds of things dangling from the wires, and that is why this part of North Fairfield Road is closed. Now, I've heard that there's damage across the street, but I haven't been able to get there yet. Even for us moving around, we have to be careful of wires. We have to be careful of all kinds of things. But I know the sun isn't going to cooperate real well, but you might be able to see just in the distance the heavy equipment that's been brought in to help try and expedite this process. It is going to be a very long day, a very long week, a very long couple of weeks here in Beaver Creek. But we've been saying this over and over. We keep seeing people that are helping each other. And as of right now, we haven't heard of any serious injuries. We're hoping that that stays true as we move forward throughout this morning. Reporting live in Beaver Creek, Gabrielle Enright, News Center 7.
Gabrielle, thank you again. We do want to mention closures and delays scrolling at the bottom of your screen. I said about an hour ago that Fairborn was on a 2-hour delay. Fairborn is now closed. So Dayton, Vandalia, Brookville, Fairborn, and several other districts both delayed and closed. We have those scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
And on your screen right now, the outage map, and this is updated in real time. We've been talking about how we've seen it as high as just under 65,000 customers without power. That's down currently at least to 55,000 customers. However, keep in mind that these numbers have been fluctuating up and down throughout the morning. We've spoken with DP&L representative Mary Ann Capel on several occasions this morning live on air, and she says just exercise your patience. They do have crews out working and have been overnight and into the morning. They also are part of a mutual aid network with bordering states, and those crews are even working and on their way to the Miami Valley to work to restore power. But as we've said, those numbers are fluctuating. It seems like almost minute to minute. So again, right now it stands at just over 55,000 customers without power. Of course, the majority of those in Montgomery and Miami counties with 41,000 and 2,800 respectively. But if you look up there in Mercer County, over 1,900 customers without power as well.
And the tornadic damage seems to be far and wide across the Miami Valley and in densely populated areas and neighborhoods. It was just about 20 minutes ago we had an update from the city of Dayton. That's where Mayor Nan Whaley said that she does see neighbors looking out for neighbors. We also heard from the city manager saying they have extra emergency crews. Also, generators are on their way to their pump stations because the Dayton Montgomery County pump stations lost power several hours ago. So they're asking people to conserve water. They're also asking anyone that is serviced by the city of Dayton Water to now boil their water before using it. The fire chief also said if anything can be taken from last night into this morning as good news, it's the fact that thus far there have been no fatalities reported. And once you see this damage from our Sky 7 drone, it's hard to imagine. They too have extra crews. The police chief also spoke. Right now there are more than 70 police officers just from the city of Dayton working. There was some reference, obviously, to the hate group that was here on Saturday and all of the extra crews that took, and now they're out working extra again for this. And he said, well, we signed up for this, and when you need us, we will be there.
This Sky 7 footage shows you just the extent of the damage throughout the Miami Valley. This is a look at, if I remember, yes, Family Dollar. So this is along North Dixie Drive there. There's several businesses in this shopping plat, or there used to be, including the Family Dollar, the Rite Aid, the Living Room. There's lots of businesses here right at Siebenthaler Avenue. But our Sky 7 drone really just shows you the extent. There on the ground you can see a deputy's cruiser there as well. Montgomery County deputies have been dispatched throughout areas of the Miami Valley because unfortunately Sheriff Rob Streck told us earlier today that already they've seen signs of looting and robberies as well. So as good as our community can be in the worst of times, there are some bad apples that they are out there looking for now. now. This footage from Sky 7 not only shows you the businesses that have been damaged, but it will continue across the highway, and shortly there you will see some neighborhoods that have been damaged by the tornadic activity as well. And Adam, you were mentioning the news conference that we just brought you live from the city of Dayton. I do know that 3 minor injuries in Dayton, and that's just amazing when you take a look at this debris field and the damage. 3 minor injuries in the Dayton area. Sean Cudahy overnight and into the morning hours has been in Salina. He said that the mayor told him there were 7 injuries as well in that area, but so far we have heard of no deaths, and that alone is amazing when you take a look at here. The Sky 7 is heading, this footage shot earlier today, but heading into a neighborhood right across the highway, and you can see just the extent of the damage.
Yeah, the cleanup just getting started at 7:43. Our Team 7 weather coverage continues. Now we want to go back out to Brookville. Kayla Cravell's been there throughout the morning. We've seen what happened to the high school, Kayla. We've seen the sides of homes ripped off, and now I see cars destroyed behind you.
Yeah, I was talking with the man who lives here. You can see his car right here. He's unable to leave his home because of all of this damage. And then his garage behind his home, there were some classic antique cars that were in that garage. And you can see he said he had just fixed one up, and that roof just came right down onto it. And we actually have him here. We've just been talking to him the past couple of minutes. Roger, you said your name was Roger. Can you tell me, you said this woke you up last night?
Yes, it did. I was about to sleep about 11:30. I heard a loud crash and a noise, something going by, and I didn't think nothing of it. And then the glass started breaking and everything started busting around, and I walked out, and this is what I seen. It knocked 2 of my 50-foot spruce down to the ground, and it's destroyed me. I have insurance that calls traveler's insurance. I hope they hear this, because I don't even know how to get a hold of them or how to begin to do what, how to do this. I've never been in this before. I've been out to sea. I'm U.S. Navy, ex-Navy. I've been in a lot worse situations, but this is the worst, personally.
And I can tell you're just in shock right now. I mean, to come out and see this, tell me what's going through your head.
Just utter shock and disbelief. That's all I can tell you at this time. And right now, I've got the shakes, and I don't have my medicine. It's all over the floor, and I can only last so long without it.
Well, we're here. We're going to help you as much as we can. I mean, you can see just the depth here in this area. As Roger was saying, many people just in shock right now as this is happening. We're going to work on trying to help him out a little bit and continue coverage with this. I just want to show you over here this house that I just saw as I was speaking to Roger. If we can see through those trees there, you can see just the roof has gone off another house. So just a lot of damage. Trees down, power lines down. Right now, this road here, this is Brookville Piermont. Piermont. This is still open right now, but just be very careful if you do have to come this way. This is right in front of Brookville High School. Just a lot of damage, as you can see here in this area. Again, we're going to try and help Roger as much as we can, and we'll check back in a little bit later on. Reporting live, Kayla Cravell, News Center 7.
Kayla, thank you. We've got some take a look. This is my neck of the woods. This is the former Hara Arena there on Shiloh Springs Road in Trotwood. Now that the sun is up and we can get a better idea of what this building looks like now, horrible. And this is indicative of what has happened in Trotwood through these tornadoes that touched down. We're told not only Hara Arena there on Shiloh Springs Road, but Salem Village Apartments, Shiloh View, and Westbrook Village, all devastated, those apartment complexes. And that is why the Red Cross was opening a shelter there in the area. It's just, what do you do after this?
To me, it looks like a demolition crew has come through.
We took a look in the dark, and we could tell it was bad, but now that the sun has come up, we can see just how bad. This is courtesy of our Sky 7 drone, and it's just devastating, just devastating.
I can tell you what you can do, which is be prepared for the next time that this happens, just like many people were prepared this time.
Yeah.
If you haven't downloaded our WHIO weather app, because see, sometimes we do everything we can, but our method method of getting to you goes away when we lose power at times, and that's why we have other venues. That's why we have other layers to our coverage, and one of those layers is our WHIO weather app. From there, you can join our team of Storm Center 7 meteorologists that will not only be watching that live Doppler 7 radar with you and warning you and send out watches and alerts directly to your cell phone, but you can watch yourself. You can track those storms as well with our experts. So again, if you have not downloaded our WHIO weather app, now is a perfect time to do so. The news app as well will send you alerts for where you live and work. And of course, if you're out and about, or maybe you just have a battery-operated radio, AM 1290 and News 95.7 WHIO, our partners. Kirsty spends much time over there. Dante spends much time over there. Molly Coates over there often. Our entire team that is here right now also spends time in the radio station keeping their listeners up to date. So that is always a good venue as well.
And, you know, we mentioned the weather app and why it's so important, Kirsty and Dante, but, you know, to be warned saved lives. Now, fortunately, the Hera Arena has been closed, so no people were hurt there, but there's no doubt a tornado hit there, and the National Weather Service really has their work cut out for them today.
I also wanted to mention, and we've seen damage worse than that at businesses that were full of customers, you know, 12 hours ago.
Yeah, unfortunately, they are going to be very busy. Thankfully, this was also an event that started with a tornado watch. So it shows the importance of when we say there's a watch, that means conditions are favorable. So you should start putting your plan in order. And as you mentioned, Dante, you and McCall had been talking about that yesterday early afternoon when we were in our 90 minutes of news. Unfortunately, it evolved into some very strong tornadic thunderstorms in Indiana. And instead of hitting the Miami Valley and weakening, they were storms that just ate up our fuel in the atmosphere and continued to produce tornadic activity here as well. We've showed you this before, but if you're just joining us again, this is looping back one of our radar products that we can explain to you when we're in live coverage, which is what Dante and McCall had been doing a lot last night, was looking at the velocity, which could show us how the wind is moving within the storm. And this was the first area of rotation, really, at least in southern Miami County there, that was first picked up. And again, these are strong areas of rotation. Again, this was right across I-75, and then you continue to follow it near Beaver Creek, north of Xenia, and then eventually there were reports of funnel clouds activity over towards Jamestown as well. And you could still see some rotation. That may have been a second storm that started to redevelop by Huber Heights and in between Huber Heights and Dayton. Yeah,
it was a second supercell thunderstorm that developed right behind it. Also had a funnel cloud and possible tornado as well, and moving in the same direction behind the other supercell. They really didn't clear out until 12:30 in the morning, which was about 7 hours ago or so. So a long evening, and we were watching that. You know, that rotation that we look at, that's a tool of radar that we use to find out which way the particles in the storm are moving. So that gives us the direction of the wind direction. And so when you get a wind going in opposite directions really close to each other, that's indicative of rotation in a storm, which of course we know rotation in a storm is a tornado. And then we also have technology that has been created where